is now 6:30, and I ask that you would please bow your heads and join me in the invocation, and afterwards we're going to allow Troop 165 to actually lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you bow your heads, please? Father God, we just come this evening thanking you for this day, just asking that you will continue to lead and guide us in all that we say and do. We ask for wise decisions, Lord God, for the community, for our citizens, and so that we're also great examples as we continue to do the goodness of your people. We just thank you for this in all things. And in your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray, and all those that agree, please say amen. Will we please stand? And this is Troop 165, and they're joining us tonight as part of their Citizens Merit Badge requirement. And so after the Pledge of Allegiance, the board will be asked to come down to actually take a picture with this awesome troop. And we thank you, Robert Logan, who's the Assistant Boy Scout Leader for this troop.
Right there. Scout salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two.
Thank you. And so we will join you over here for a picture. So we thank you again. Let's give this troop a round of applause. It's Troop 165. So we again applaud Troop 165 and best wishes to you and congratulations on your Citizen Merit Badge. So we'll now call the Board of Commissioners meeting to order. And at this point, we'll find out, are there any changes or revisions to the agenda at this point? Hearing none, seeing none, the floor is now open for a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion or comments? All in favor? The agenda unanimously is approved. We'll now move into the next item, which is the District 2 appointee to the Urban Redevelopment Agency, and we'll note that Arnold Cole will serve on the Urban Redevelopment Agency, and his term expires on 12/31/2020. Are there any, the floor is now open for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion or comments? All in favor? Thank you. The appointment is unanimously approved. We'll now move into our senior services resolution to award an RFP to the Visiting Nurse Health Systems. I understand Ms. Diane Reed is a little under the weather, so we invite up Mr. Brad Johnson to make the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and good afternoon. I'm here filling in for Diane, which is a little under the weather, but it is in the audience in case we do need some of her expertise advice. But this is a proposal for nursing services, case management for staff, for our growing clientele. This did go through the bid process, procurement department. Bid number 19-29 was evaluated and found that the Visiting Nurse Health System is a recommendation by staff at annual contract of $98,721.97.
Okay, well, we've heard the presentation. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussions or comments? All in favor? Okay, the resolution is
Thank you.
unanimously approved. All right, we'll move into our next item from Community Development Group, and we'll invite up Ms. Shannon Sanya from our Community Development Director and Ms. Marjorie Williams from the AICP Principal of Mullen and Lonergan. And as they're preparing, this item is a updated 2019-2023 analysis of impediments to fair housing choice and a resolution requesting approval to submit to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board.
Good evening.
This evening, we have with us Ms. Marjorie Williams, who is a principal with Mullen and Lonergan. Mullen and Lonergan was contracted by the county to assist us in the update of our analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. This is the county's second analysis of impediment to fair housing choice. The first plan was approved by the board in 2014. Ms. Williams does have a brief presentation to go over some of the findings and recommendations of this plan. The plan is currently available online and can be accessed by the public.
Am I doing this? There we go. Good evening. Just to give you a bit of a background on this, fair housing, as most of you might know, is the right to choose housing free from unlawful discrimination based on federal and state protected classes. And these are race, color, religion, national origin, sex, disability, and marital status. And what that means is that these are characteristics of people that have nothing to do with housing. And when you are in your housing search, or if you are trying to maintain your housing as a renter or an owner, it is against the law for someone to discriminate you based on these characteristics. Henry County receives Community Development Block Grant money from HUD. And as a recipient of those funds, every year when the county submits its annual action plan to HUD, you are required to sign a certification. And the certification says that Henry County will affirmatively further fair housing. And what that means is that you, in the implementation of your programs and services, you cannot discriminate against anyone. You must also work to stop discrimination in Henry County, as well as to work to desegregate areas of concentration of minorities and low-income persons. The way that you demonstrate to HUD that you implement your housing policies and programs and related ordinances and policies is by completing this AI. And so in this process, we met with community members and stakeholders. We looked at a lot of census data. We reviewed a lot of policy documents and local statutes in Henry County and in the 4 cities. Then we identified barriers to housing choice. So through those policies and procedures and local ordinances, are there provisions that, whether intentional or most likely unintentional, might discriminate against fair housing choice for members of the protected classes. There was a public comment period held over April and May, and then tonight's presentation. So just to give you an idea, Shannon said earlier that this is the second AI. The last AI, there's been some progress, and these are just 4 examples of some of the progress that Henry County has achieved. The first one was to increase home ownership among minority and low and moderate income households. And in its efforts to do that, the county conducted 2 8-hour home buyer education classes. Also to increase the supply of decent, affordable, and accessible housing, which also includes preserving affordable housing that people already have right now. And so the county rehabbed a total of 107 units, and that includes from other sources, not just county funds, but other organizations such as Habitat for Humanity. The third one was to improve access to programs and services for persons with LEP. That means limited English proficiency. And the county now provides Spanish interpreters at public meetings for the Community Development Block Grant Program when it's requested. And then finally, to increase access to public transit options for minority and low and moderate income households. And you've made significant strides in this since the last time we were here. The free pilot program has been started with a fixed route link, linking several jurisdictions and destinations in the county, and also completed a joint transit needs assessment with the 4 cities. So I do want to show you one map based on all the demographics, or out of all the demographics that we looked at. And on this map, you'll see there's 3 census tracts, the blue areas, and these are areas where there's higher concentrations of minority residents. So more than 65% of the population in these blue areas are non-white residents. And then where you see the crosshatch, the poverty rate in those crosshatched areas is greater than 16%. And what's significant is when those crosshatched areas overlap with the blue areas, and that's where you have your higher concentrations of low and moderate income persons, in this case specifically relating to poverty, as well as minorities. And these we're calling racially and ethnically concentrated areas of poverty. And so then throughout the process of preparing this document, we were looking at to what extent is housing choice either restricted to affordable housing, restricted to these areas, or in ways that is expanded beyond these areas. So the final piece of the document is the Fair Housing Action Plan. And we have a few goals, and I just wanted to quickly review those. And so we think that it's important that the county continue to expand opportunities for the Spanish-speaking community, because it is a growing population in your jurisdiction. And so to continue providing fair housing training as well as homebuyer education for Spanish-speaking, provide those sessions in Spanish. The second goal was to increase the level of awareness of fair housing laws for local lenders and real estate agents. And the county has provided comparable training in the past. We think that it's important, though, to continue providing fair housing education and outreach, and this was another recommendation that we made. There's always, different realtors or lenders or people who can come and attend training or not, so to continuously offer this type of service is something that should be done. The third goal is to encourage and support the city managers within the county to evaluate the level of accessibility in local government buildings and facilities. So one of the things that we look at is also to what degree do people with disabilities have access to not only housing but to also public facilities throughout the county. And so our recommendation is to complete an evaluation process and work with the city managers to create a priority list so that when there are accessibility features that need to be either upgraded or installed and are eligible for city community development block grant funds, you would have a priority list ready. The fourth goal is to ensure Henry County zoning ordinance is in compliance with fair housing laws. There are primarily 2 issues here that we saw that should be considered for action, and one is to update the zoning ordinance and allow multifamily units by right in more residential districts. Multifamily housing can be a more affordable housing option than single-family housing, and to be able to allow developers to build affordable housing either in conjunction with market rate housing or as, for example, funded by tax credits from the state of Georgia. It should be something allowed by right in more districts in the county. And then also group homes by right in all residential districts. So group homes for persons with disabilities. And those should be regulated in the same way that single-family dwelling units are in all residential districts in the county. The fifth goal is to provide technical assistance, education, and outreach to local cities to help them bring their zoning ordinances into compliance with fair housing law. And again, this speaks to the need for fair housing education and outreach, specifically as it relates to how zoning and planning can either restrict or expand housing choice in a community. And then also to provide technical assistance in the form of sample zoning language that cities could consider in terms of expanding housing choice through their zoning ordinance, particularly as it relates to how a family is defined and the regulation of group homes for persons with disabilities. The sixth goal is to encourage the development of new affordable housing, such as senior housing or family housing, housing that's funded with low-income housing tax credits, but overall more affordable options for specifically for rental housing, and specifically in closer proximity to commercial amenities, public transit, and other opportunities, employment opportunities, for example, in the county. I believe this is the final one. Preserve existing affordable housing and increase the availability of options through a housing rehab program. So it's almost always more affordable to preserve housing that is already affordable, what some people can call naturally occurring affordable housing, than to create new, have to build new. It's a very expensive and time-consuming task. And so we recommend continuing to partner with organizations such as Southern Crescent, Habitat for Humanity, and the Henry County Fuller Center for Housing in an attempt to continue the rehab of at least 50 owner-occupied units over the next 5 years. That averages about 10 a year. Oh, sorry, there is a number 8. And I think too, you've made great strides in public transit, and that certainly needs to be continued. One of the things that we heard, probably more than anything else in our stakeholder outreach in the county, was the need for affordable public transit that connected where people live to where jobs were, especially those that do not have a car, cannot afford a car, but need to get to jobs, or wanting to work, or willing to work, and can work, but they don't have that accessibility to jobs. So in terms of the next steps, this AI will be submitted to HUD for HUD's review. And the action plan, the Fair Housing Action Plan, needs to be implemented on an annual basis. Not that you have to do everything in 1 year or everything every year, but select, especially the fair housing education and outreach. Those are things that should be done on a regular basis. But every year when the county submits its annual action plan, it should be determining which of these actions that it will incorporate into its annual plan. And then the progress is reported in its end-of-the-year report, its CAPER document.
Well, thank you very much for that presentation. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I'd like to make one comment. Sure. In regards to the slide on accomplishments, I'd just like to note that Henry County sponsors at least 2 8-hour home buyer workshops a year.
Okay, very good, and we appreciate that note. Yes, Commissioner Holmes?
Presentation.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Thank you.
Yes, very good. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, well, we thank you and appreciate the work from the CDBG, and thank you very much for this update.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We do have a resolution for approval.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much, and for that reminder. Okay, so there's a question from Commissioner Clemens.
I have a question in reference to how you spend CDBG funds according to the percentage of the countywide statistics that was written. Do you use any of this to determine where the greatest needs are for the spending of the funds?
Yes, ma'am. We do use the analysis of impediments to help guide us in the selection of sub-recipients and the specific activities that will be or are recommended to the board for approval. So this is definitely one of the tools that we use in that selection process.
Okay.
Okay, and then I have one other question. Can you send us any results from your joint transit needs assessment that was conducted, or so?
It was reporting on what the county had already done in its needs
Okay,
assessment.
so through the feasibility study and all? Okay,
Yes.
very good. Okay, thank you. And we have that. All right, any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion to approve the resolution to submit to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Move to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Okay, the resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now invite up Major Van Rosen to speak to us from the Henry County Police Department about a resolution requesting the approval of professional services agreement between Red Speed Georgia and Henry County to install automated speed detection cameras.
Good evening, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board.
Good evening.
In 2018, Henry County Police Department began to explore ways to encourage voluntary compliance to speed regulations among Henry County motorists in school zones. The motivation for this is to increase the safety of our roadways to the students, our school crossing guards, and the motoring public. The Henry County Police Department asked Red Speed to conduct speed evaluations on 5 Henry County school clusters, those being Ola, Stockbridge, Hampton, Luella, and Union Grove. It was determined that on one day of school, there were 3,214 motorists operating above the speed limit by at least 10 miles per hour. Additionally, in the last year, 75 motor vehicle accidents were reported within these areas. Henry County Police Department is requesting approval to partner with Red Speed to install automated speed detection cameras in these school zones. In meetings between Henry County and the Henry County Board of Education, the BOE expressed their desire to collaborate with Henry County on this project. These cameras will be installed and maintained at no cost to the county and will be managed by Red Speed through a profit-sharing model. Additionally, the cameras will enhance security by providing a built-in license plate recognition system, as well as the ability to view the camera feed in real time remotely. Red Speed is a sole source provider for the services that they offer, and these cameras will aid the police department in our mission to encourage voluntary speed compliance and enhance the safety, again, of our students, our pedestrians, and our motorists. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, Commissioner Thomas.
This will be placed near a lot of our schools, correct?
Yes, ma'am. It would be placed within the school safety zones.
In the process of monitoring, will there be also a process of warning for our students before they're ticketed every time for speeding?
So the law requires us to have a warning period before actual enforcement is taking place, but there is not a process for a warning citation, so to speak. Once the system goes live, then it would be, there's not a method in place for a warning.
Well, I'm concerned about that. You said you had over 3,000 people already that's breaking the law at least 10 miles an hour or more. Probably a high percentage of those are students.
I don't have any data to determine what the age of the driver was.
What have you done? What have you done to work with the Board of Education to talk about this process before it's actually enacted, so students will know that it's coming and what the cost will be for a ticket before we actually put it in place?
So, in meetings with the Board of Education, they're excited about partnering with us. Just to keep the safety of the students is first and foremost in our minds. Again, we would be required to, for at least a 30-day period, just like a new traffic light or a stop sign or something of that nature, it would be a warning in the sense of, hey, this is coming, but there is no method once the system goes live to have a warning citation issued.
I'm concerned that we may be punishing kids a little bit harsh before they actually know what's happening. And I understand about the traffic light, a warning sign being there, but when you get that ticket and mom has to pay $200 or $300, I'm not sure what it is.
So the citation would be a $75 fine.
$75?
For the first one. A second one within a year, I believe it jumps to $125, and that's the most that it would be. Also, just as a side note, the law doesn't allow these citations to go towards points on a license or towards insurance or anything like that. So it very much is just kind of a wake-up call in terms of these folks need to slow down. We're not trying to punitively hurt anybody or anything like that, cost them, insurance money or that sort of thing.
Okay. I would love to see if we're going to do this is find a way to get the Board of Education to commit to teaching our children about what's happening, what's coming, so that they won't take for granted this process, because moms and dads won't like constantly paying these tickets, starting at $75 per child. It's a very good program. Have you all worked out you said the shared profits on this? Has that been worked out? What percentage stays with the school? What percentage stays with the county?
The law
Has any of
states
that
that
been
we.
worked out?
I apologize, ma'am. The law states that funds can only be used for public safety initiatives, and the profit-sharing model is Red Speed will maintain and manage the system at a cost of 35% of the net proceed. So the county would retain 65% to be utilized for public safety initiatives, and then Red Speed would take 35% for the management of the system.
I like the process, but I do want to give our children the benefit of the doubt, to learn a little bit more about what's coming, and maybe the Board of Education can help with that, with some type of campaign within the school system, so that they will know that this is for real and what the cost could be, to help out our students, because a lot of parents out here may very well be surprised when they see their students bring home these tickets after tickets to be paid.
I think once we get this campaign, we get this approval, they're not going to be surprised. We're going to have this in the newspaper. We're going to do a PSA. We're going to have it on our Facebook. We'll make sure we partner with the school and get them to do as much as we're allowed to do. But there's going to be a huge drive to get that information out to everybody. We'll get with Melissa. Maybe do something on TV as well. It's not going to be a shock. We're going to get this word out. And like we said, the lawsuit, they can't even do a ticket for the first 30 days. We can do it the whole summer to make sure they know if this gets approved today. And it's only while the school is actually in operation that tickets can even be written for this. The whole scope around this idea is only to do this while school's in session to help protect the kids. And like he said, we've had too many accidents. But rest assured, we will get the word out. There won't be anybody that doesn't know that this is coming. I don't want to shock anybody easy. The best way to get this done is voluntary compliance. And hopefully if they see what's going on, people will slow down. Ideally, we'll never write a ticket. That means everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing in school zones. But I promise that we will get the word out on it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Clemens?
Chief, will you stay up? I thank Commissioner Thomas for her comments, but one of the things I think, since we can use this for an initiative, maybe we can use the funds that if it's a student, if it's the first time that they can watch a video and pay the fine or do community service, so we could put some programs in place that we're educating the students about speeding as well, because if they were out on the regular street, they're gonna get a ticket. But we can use this as another way of education and look at some initiatives. We may already have something in place like that. I don't know if there's, I think they should pay if they're speeding. I don't care who it is, but the education piece may be good too. If it's a student that they may have to, they can do volunteer or paid. So there's some things out there already in the courts that we can look at, but just think about some initiatives that we can put in place as well to kind of make sure that they know the importance of not speeding.
All right, other questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Further questions or comments? All in favor? Okay, your resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now moving to the next items under Board of Commissioners, and we've got a resolution of support and authorization to participate in the Folds of Honor Patriot Golf Day at Cotton Fields Golf Course. And we'll invite Mr. Tim Coley up for that presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Since 2007, the Folds of Honor has carried a noble mission forward to provide educational scholarships to spouses and children of Americans fallen and disabled service members. Their motto is honor their service by educating their legacy. And Henry County is proud to support the efforts that assist in supporting America's service members. Folds of Honor utilizes a Patriots Golf Day as a way to fundraise for their Legacy Scholarship Program. And the Henry County Board of Commissioners would like to make May 27th, Memorial Day, Patriots Golf Day at Cotton Fields Golf Club. There is a change in the next part of the resolution is whereas 20% of all green fees and cart fees only collected on May 27th will be donated to Folds of Honor Patriots Day Golf Legacy Scholarship Program. And the reason we need to limit it to the green fees and the cart fees is due to the accounting and the financial compliance, and also with the taxes and everything. It would be very hard and difficult for us to split that out for a candy bar and a Coke and everything that's sold there. So we're asking the resolution read 20% of all green fees and cart fees be donated.
Question, okay, I have a question. So we're saying that the golf course is being made whole, and then this is above all of the costs that's due to the county?
Yes, what we're going to do is Monday is a holiday. We're going to charge weekend rates, which are above the normal rates, and the difference in those rates is what will be donated.
Got it, okay, but the county will be made whole, okay, very good, and this is a good patriotic opportunity. Okay, Commissioner Barham?
Yes, Tim, I think this is a great idea. I'm just kind of questioning the 27th. We're talking about 6 days away. Have you got time to advertise for this?
I think so, and we can. It's a year-round program. If it works today, we can come back and do a Veterans Day or another day if we want to. They have some other initiatives you can do, but I think what we want to do is use this as a kickoff program, and our weekends have been very, very good. A lot of players and everything, and we've already got a lot of people that have already on the tee sheet that's already booked tee times for Monday, so we think it'd be a good kickoff day. And they've given us some information that we can put up during the week as well to advertise it, so.
Okay, other questions or comments from the board? Did you have? No. Okay, all right. Okay, so.
I do have one other comment. I want to,
Sure.
even though we have the golf courses, this was a new program for us, and I want to appreciate Commissioner Clemens bringing this to us, and I've read up a lot on it and the benefits it has and the different ways that we can be involved without even just donating the money, but other initiatives that we can do, and we'll probably come back later for some of those. But it's been very rewarding to be a part of it, just this 2 weeks or whatever that we've been a part of. And I'd like to thank Commissioner Clemens for bringing that to our attention.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Clemens.
And I would just like to say that I know that a lot of the NFL teams, the Speedway, we have a huge veterans community, and for people that don't understand what Folds of Honor is, it is a national fundraising objective for disabled or fallen soldiers' children to have an opportunity to go to college. So the county doesn't keep any money, the county doesn't do anything. This is a national organization, and so therefore veterans that are in our community that want to go golf or throughout the nation that are here in the state of Georgia for Memorial Day, Henry County is the first golf course to honor this in the state of Georgia. And so we're expecting to lead the way for every other municipality, every other county that has a golf course to say that if you have a golf course, and they advertise your golf course for us, so now we have free advertising for our golf course, that you should make sure that your golf course is honoring those fallen and disabled soldiers during the times of playing golf. So thank you, Tim, and thank the board and the county for recognizing that we can do something more than just losing money on our golf course.
Other questions or comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion for the resolution.
Move to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Okay, it
Thank you very
passes
much.
unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the next item comes to us is a request to consider offering dental insurance through Cigna to Henry County retirees for coverage plan 2019-2020. And we're inviting up Ms. Shannon Sanyo and Michael Gashes, the insurance broker, to make that presentation.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, in regards to dental insurance for retirees, this is one of the questions or inquiries that was presented from the board in a meeting or two ago in regards to insurance. And the Mike Gass's agency did look into that and found the rates that would be available and confirmed the eligibility for retirees, and we do have a resolution to that effect. In years past, dental insurance has not been offered to retirees, but only active employees and their dependents. This resolution would make dental insurance eligible to retirees for the upcoming planning year starting June 1 through May 31st, 2020. The rate would be $29.62 for the retiree and $85.98 for the family. The criteria and the conditions for such insurance would be consistent with what is already in the personnel policy for retiree health benefits. In short, that is that the insurance will only be available for those upon retirement. So they will have to have had the insurance 12 months prior to retirement, and then they can carry it on through in retirement. Additionally, if they have single coverage prior to retiring, they cannot retire and increase that coverage to include dependents. Let's see some of the other main points. This year only, for the upcoming open enrollment, any retiree, however, will be eligible. But going forward, they would have to take it with them upon retirement. And I'll ask Mike if he has anything he'd like to add.
No, just saying that follows the same guidelines as the retiree for medical insurance. So you take with you what you have the prior 12 months. You take it when you retire. If you don't, well, then you don't come back later and get it. If you ever drop it, you can't keep it. So it's just consistent with the rules you already have now for the medical plan.
Okay, and this is just questions from the board. I have a question. So this is optional for the retiree, apparently.
That is correct. It is optional.
Okay, and I'm just trying to think of how this may connect to any budget impacts that we're going to be discussing. Is there, just to clarify, there's none, correct? No. Okay.
The retiree will pay for it, and it will actually be deducted through their GEB core.
Very good. Okay. Other questions from the board? Okay. Hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion or comments? All in favor? Okay, the resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're now moving to our planning and zoning items, and the very first one that we have is RZ 1822, which is the Builders Professional Group requesting a rezoning from RA to R2 for property located at 728 Elliott Road in District 3. So at this time, we'll ask Mr. Stacy Rudisell to come and make the presentation before we begin the public hearing.
Good evening, Chair
Good
Wood,
evening.
Commissioners. The request before you tonight is comprised of 87 acres on Elliott Road, just south of Campground Road. The property is zoned RA, and the request is to go from RA to R2S, which is R2 on sewer. And the zoning map shows the property indicated in green. The future land use map calls for low-density residential, which allows up to 2 dwelling units per acre net. The applicant is proposing 130 lots, and so the net acreage is 1.91 dwelling units per acre. The request was heard by the Zoning Advisory Board on March the 14th. The Zoning Advisory Board actually recommended denial of the applicant's request, and they also denied the applicant's conditional use request for a conservation subdivision, which will be the subject of our next public hearing. The applicant has appealed that denial to the Board of Commissioners. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions or comments at this time?
I'll wait after applicant, but I do want to make clear that this is just the first step of what we're going to do with the second case tonight.
Yes, sir. This is one of 2 hearings about this subject property. This is regarding the rezoning from RA to R2S, and then the next hearing will be regarding the conservation subdivision.
Okay.
Okay, and just a question, what was staff's recommendation on this?
We actually recommended approval with 6 conditions, but the Zoning Advisory Board actually, after their hearing, they did recommend denial of the applicant's request.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, what we'll do now is enter into the public hearing for this zoning matter. The first 10 minutes will be given collectively to a group wishing to speak in favor, which includes the applicant, and then after that 10-minute time limit, we'll allow 10 minutes collectively for a group of those wishing to speak against it. So at this time, those wishing to speak in favor, would you please come forward to state your name and address as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Steve Moore with Moore Bass Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia, and I'm representing Builders Professional Group in the first step of this process, which is the rezoning. As Stacy mentioned, the property has 87 acres total of property located on the east side of Elliott Road, south of its intersection with Campground Road. The property is currently zoned RA, and just based on our extensive review of the property and knowledge of the area and investigation on future roadway projects, we strongly feel that it is infeasible for that property to be developed under the current zoning of RA. The historical market for that property has proven that, in that it has been on the market and for sale and has yet to sell to anyone, because this is the right type of zoning for this property. We believe that this request is truly the only viable way to develop the property, to preserve the natural resources that exist on the property, and to meet the market demands. Our request to rezone to R2 sewer, the original request did include 130 lots, and we'll get into, I know, further discussions about our extended approach, which included the conservation subdivision. But as it relates to just the simple zoning request, which, as Stacy mentioned, is the first step in this process, I just wanted to just point out a couple of key features from the staff report, which was in recommendation for approval. But the R2 sewer request is consistent with the future land use map designation of low-density residential, and our densities were under the maximum allowed under that land use designation. The plan is consistent with the goals and objectives of the R2 ordinance in the ULDC. The conservation subdivision design, which again we'll talk about shortly, is also a directive and goal indicated in the county's comprehensive land use plan. The property is capable of being developed as we've proposed in our plans. The property has access to water and sewer. The property is, one of the conditions that came as a product of the original zoning hearing was to conduct a traffic study on Elliott Road, and for the developer to be responsible for any improvements indicated by that study. In doing so, we feel confident that we won't overburden the existing roadways in the vicinity of our property, and that we'll be able to mitigate any of those impacts. And I think that about covers the criteria points that staff used, again, in their review and ultimate recommendation for approval. We feel it's inevitable that this tract is going to be developed. We feel like we have the best plan and the best approach for the development of this property. We've agreed to all of the 6 conditions that were proposed by staff, and at this point, I'll reserve the rest of my time for any additional questions.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so we'll allow anyone else to come speak who wishes to speak in favor. So is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? And we'll invite you back after the public hearing.
John Page from Garden Gate Estates, former president of HOA over a number of years. And I spoke pretty harshly as far as a number of weeks back regarding Knight's construction and the development of that area and the development that he completed at our facility. I'd like to retract some of those statements, as Mr. Knight himself and Mr. Burnham, we had an extensive meeting, and over that meeting we discussed issues and resolved all the issues, in which case would like to make that statement to the board. I have comments regarding against as well, but I'll wait.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward now. Again, anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward now. Okay, so at this time, we'll allow those wishing to speak in opposition. Again, there will be a total of 10 minutes given, so if there's multiple speakers, please be mindful of those that are behind you.
The infrastructure, especially over there.
Your name and address.
Bill Tony, Highway 155. It's around the corner from me. I live on 155. My traffic backs up anyway. You don't have the infrastructure for this amount of houses. With everything that y'all have been passing, the county just can't take it. You've unleashed tractor trailers, You're unleashing them now with all these warehouses. This county just can't take it with the infrastructure until y'all do something to boost it up. Please, I deny this one. Mr. Barham is my commissioner, and I'm asking him to vote no on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Madam Chair, Wood, and Commissioners, my name is Charles Downey. I live at 557 Eastmore Drive, McDonough, Georgia. I think there should be another category, against and for. I'm in opposition to the traditional RS2 rezoning for this property, but support the rezoning as it relates to the conditional use for a conservation subdivision with an average lot size of 18,000 square foot lots, 2,800 square foot house size, and 40% green space when it comes to up for the next, when the agenda comes up on the next item, when the next item comes up on the agenda. The main reason I oppose the traditional rezoning is that it is plain, generic, run-of-the-mill subdivision. It will not blend in with the character of the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward now.
Again, John Page. And again, Gary Burnham, I would like to thank him again as far as for getting overhead street lights that lit up Elliott and Turner. I think that's helped to reduce some accidents recently because of the volume of traffic. But something has to be done. You're supposedly not to consider traffic. The volume that is coming down that street presently, Elliott Road, is tremendous. There's no traffic control at either end, Elliott or at 20 or Eastlake. If you can approve this many homes to be built up there, or the 400 and some odd that want to be built on campground, and not get something done prior to it, you are developing nothing more than major accidents and injuries to the people that are going to move there. And if you can answer me as to why you can do that, you should, or you can't answer it, you shouldn't be on the board. Something needs to be done before you approve building to develop and improve the safety of the roads that exist presently for the residents that are there. This is an atrocity that you've created by allowing these homes to be built without developing pre-road conditions. You're always playing after the fact. Thank you.
Thank you. You may come forward now.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Vanessa Thomas, living out in Weatherstaff Lane and Park Place at Avalon. I really have a concern with all of the homes that are being built in this area, and especially the traffic. We're all talking about the traffic, and the gentleman mentioned that that they've done a traffic study, and I would certainly like to know about that traffic study and how is that going to prevent so much traffic? Because if they've got a traffic study, that they've planned, then I'd certainly like to know about it. So perhaps we could use that traffic study to assist in other traffic within along the 155 as well as 81. Those two areas there are just very congested, and we certainly need to do something about it. And just as the gentlemen were just mentioning that, we've got so much of these homes being built and so much of the warehouses and things of that nature being built, but yet we're overflowing as far as the traffic is concerned. So I would certainly like more of a traffic study in all of these different areas that we are proposing to build on and to have these homes and warehouses built in. There certainly needs to be a traffic study on every project that is being done, and as a result, I too oppose to the building of these units. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Don Dunlap from 192 Ashley Drive, McDonough. Madam Chair and board members, as presented, the rezoning request, in my opinion, would negatively impact the rural character of our community. So I'm in opposition to R2S traditional zoning. But if the owner was to reduce the number of lots to 105 from the 130 proposed, with an average minimum 18,000 square foot lot size and a 2,800 square foot house size, with the conditional use as a conservation subdivision, I would be totally in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Good evening, Madam Chair and Board. My name is Russell Smith. I live at 559 Heathmore Drive. And I'm speaking in opposition to the rezoning request, pretty much for the same reasons that the people before me have spoken against it. The line of sight issues that will be presented at this development entrance is pretty dangerous. The traffic study that needs to be done there, hopefully we'll get it done after the bridge opens and while school is in session so that we can get the full flavor of what the traffic's really like on Elliott Road. So I would ask you to make sure that that happens for us as well. Putting in deceleration lanes and acceleration lanes at that part of Elliott Road sounds like a good plan, but it's right on the side of a hill. And all it's going to do is just add 8 more feet of asphalt somebody's got to navigate to make left-hand turns. Should the rezoning be approved, I request that the study be done while school is in session. And then furthermore, even though I'm not in favor of the conservation development, should we get to that point in the meeting, I will not oppose it like I do oppose the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Elizabeth Bond, and I live on Elliott Road. I live in the midst of this bridge being rebuilt, and I've lived here for over 10 years, and I've seen the traffic that already comes down Elliott Road. We're a cut through for a lot of other places, for traffic to come through from East Lake and 20. The traffic sometimes is unreal, and this will add so much more to it. And it is. Out of my driveway, the sight lines are poor on one side. Cars come over that hill and they're building up speed by the time they hit my driveway before they're going down the hill. You can look both ways and pull out and somebody be ready to pass you because they're going so fast. And the street is a rural community, and it will not be if y'all approve that subdivision being built. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? We have 38 seconds and counting.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and the rest of the board. My name is Queen Esther Stewart, and I live right off of Elliott Road in Fairhaven. I recently moved to this area because it's beautiful. I love the way the horses, the cows, all of that. I'm from New York, and I'm listening to this. I know a housing project when I hear it, and that's what this is, in the midst of grace. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, that concludes our public hearing aspect. We'll invite the applicant up to address any questions and comments from the board. along with staff. So at this time, are there any questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Barham?
Yes, Stacy, I'll start with you. This R2S is the highest zoning category that we have that's required to hook on the sewer.
Yes, sir. So this development would be required to tap into the public sewer, and anything less intensive would not even require sewer. And yet, if you require the large lots, they would have to tap into the sewer regardless. So this, as you described it, this is the least intensive zoning district while still taking advantage of the benefits that are offered by the public sewer service.
Okay. Steve, this is a question for you. You've heard about the traffic study, and I think the bridge is supposed to open this Thursday, and school's fixing to be out. Would y'all have any objections to waiting to do the traffic study, say in September sometime? Would that be an issue for y'all? Because I know y'all got to do a lot of things.
We do, and I don't think that we definitely agree that the counts need to be done during the school season. We've actually already had some traffic counts performed by our traffic engineer. We've had it done for a while, but whether he has them we need to meet with David Simmons and discuss exactly the limits of the study. But we agree and we understand that those counts have to be done during school to get an accurate number. So that's fine. I mean, whether it's, I don't know that it needs to be in the form of a condition, but it's, I think, general engineering practices that you would do those studies during the normal, predictable traffic schedules.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
And if I may, one more thing just related to traffic. Site distance, we have field verified the locations at both entrances, and they do meet the minimum required site distance that's required by DOT for that speed limit.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion regarding the zoning matter.
Okay. You're going to have some repetitive conditions that I'm going to put on this, plus when we get to the second phase of this, of the conservation part. But I'm going to make a motion that we approve the zoning with staff's 6 conditions. And I also want to add number 7, all homes shall have a minimum of 2,800 square feet of heated floor space. Number 8, there shall be a minimum 50-foot buffer between the subject property and its northern, eastern, and southern boundaries, with a 100-foot landscape buffer between the subject property and Elliott Road. Number 9, the owner-developer shall conduct a traffic study and comply with all applicable findings, and to be considered during this traffic study in September.
Yes, sir.
Number 10, a privacy fence shall be placed along the northern, eastern, and southern property line of between the subject property and the property lines of 708 Elliott Road. And that's all I got right now.
Okay, we've got a motion with these 1, 2, 3, 4 additional conditions in addition to what staff recommended. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second. Are there any further questions or comments? All in favor? Okay,
Thank you.
the zoning matter passes.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll move now into the next public hearing. It is too related as reference regarding the same stated property as AP 1901. And this is, again, with the Builders Professionals Group appealing the denial of a conditional use request for the property located at 728 Elliott Road. And we invite up Ms. Nieves to make that presentation.
Good evening, Chair Wood and Commissioners.
Good evening.
The request before you tonight concerns the property located at 728 Elliott Road, which is currently zoned R2 on sewer, and the applicant is requesting a is appealing the conditional use decision in order to develop the subject property as a conservation subdivision. conservation subdivisions require a yield plan, which is the document I've placed on the screen, which is based upon a conventional subdivision design that could feasibly be built. What this means is that this yield plan must show accurate street dimensions and sizes, accurate lot widths based on the zoning of the property, and so forth. The yield plan establishes that the number of lots that can be built on the property based on the underlying zoning, in this case R2 on sewer. And that yield plan has provided 130 lots. So that number provided by the yield plan is then applied to the conservation subdivision design, which is an alternative subdivision design, which is also required to establish a minimum of 40% open space and other requirements such as buffers. In this case, the applicant is proposing 47.7% of protected open space. During the March 14th Zoning Advisory Board meeting, staff recommended approval of the applicant's request. However, the Zoning Advisory Board decided to deny that request, and the applicant is therefore appealing this decision. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from the board? Because this is another public hearing. Okay, well, at this time, we'll begin the public hearing. And again, at this time, we'll ask those who are wishing to speak in favor, including the applicant, to please come forth. There will be a collective of 10 minutes given to that. Again, if you'll state your name.
Good evening again. Steve Moore, Moorbass Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia, representing Builders Professional Group and the conditional use request before you this evening. We have, first of all, just thank you for the opportunity to get to this stage, and it takes that rezoning to get here. Now that we're at this stage, we do feel that we have a plan that is the result of a lot of work, a lot of coordination with neighboring citizens. We had a town hall meeting. We had the opportunity to hear from several people about concerns and ideas and suggestions. We've worked extensively with the neighboring subdivision to the south, that's the on Elliott Road, and have their endorsement as to our new plan. And I believe our new plan is similar in nature, similar in concept, slightly different in numbers. And I'll show that right now if that's okay. This plan is still developed, proposed to be developed as a conservation subdivision. The lot count has been reduced to 105 lots from the 130 that was originally requested. In addition, the lot sizes have been increased from 90 foot wide, which was in our original application, to 100 foot wide minimum. The average lot size in this project, as shown, is 18,000 square feet. And there's 40% open space, as is required by the Conservation Subdivision Ordinance. Again, just to reiterate that this did go through staff's review and did receive a recommendation for approval as a conservation subdivision based on a couple of criteria I just want to just kind of bring up one more time. That the conservation subdivision design, this is from staff report, will have a positive effect and is in line with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. That the property is capable of being developed as shown on this plan, or as the plan that was submitted. That the development is consistent with the future land use map. The densities are actually even better than they were before. That this property, again, will connect to water and public water and sewer. We will conduct the traffic study. This plan isn't going to increase the number of trips because the lots got smaller. In fact, it's now, as with the reduction in number of lots, it'll be less of an impact due to traffic. And it's consistent with the development standards in the county's ULDC. That it will protect the environmental resources. There's a creek that runs along this edge of the property here that will be protected in perpetuity through open space, and that and will create less of a maintenance concern and maintenance obligations on the part of the county with regards to street maintenance. The conservation subdivision, relative to other developments, we believe again, with the reduction in number of lots, we'll have less traffic than what was proposed before and less impact on schools. That's not as a result of the conservation subdivision. All we're doing is making the lots a little bit smaller and protecting what needs to be protected with open space. We have the 50-foot buffers minimum around the perimeter of the property, as well as a 100-foot buffer adjacent to Elliott Road. And with that, I'm happy to answer any additional questions, or I'll go sit down and wait for my time to come back up, actually. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward now.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, my name is Charles Downey. I live at 557 Heathmore Drive, McDonough. I want to thank Commissioner Barham working hard and pulling the community and developer together so that we can have a development that benefit everyone. I want to especially thank the developer, Chris Knight, in working with Commissioner Barham and the community. I think that this proposed conservation subdivision will have a negative impact on the traffic and other public safety issues? Yes, I do. Do I think this development could have a negative impact on our schools and property values? Yes, I do. Do I think larger homes on larger lots with sewer will sell in this area? Yes, I do. There is currently 2 large homes on large lots with sewer about 1,500 feet from this property. Now, stepping back, looking at the big picture, I realize the owners have a right to sell their property. Also, I realize that Mr. Knight has a huge investment tied up in this project, plus his time, and he wants to build the best homes possible so he can sell them. Mr. Knight reduced the number of lots to 105 from 130. He increased the average lot size to 18,000 square feet from 11,000 square feet. He increased the minimum lot width to 100 feet on the street frontage, which will make the lots look larger. He increased the minimum size house size, to 2,800 square feet from 2,400 square feet. He will provide a 100-foot landscape buffer with a berm along Elliott Road so houses probably won't be seen. He is maintaining 40% of the property in green space. A little over half of the lots will be adjacent to green space, which will make them look larger. With the reduction of lots, the creek and wetlands in the rear of the property will be better protected. So I'm pleased to support the conservation subdivision as presented by the Knight Homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
My name's Don Dunlap, 192 Ashley Drive, McDonough. Madam Chair and Board, I was one of the folks at the ZAB meeting that spoke in opposition to this conservation subdivision. As Mr. Downey was saying, the developer's been amazing at responding to the concerns that we expressed. He has met all of the concerns, addressed them, and has come up with a plan that I, as a citizen of the community, totally endorse and would wish other developers were as proactive about working with the community and making sure that their needs are heard. So I am very much in support of the conservation subdivision now.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward now.
John Page from Garden Gate Estates. I'm not opposed as far as to the building of the construction site. I'm kind of asking the county commissioners to develop an issue as far as that's going to save lives in asking the roadway to Elliott Road to be improved to meet federal DOT requirements to the rule of 55. And if you have somebody that's a county manager that can tell you what the rule of 55 is, It's basically opened area around the intersection for viewing to reduce down accidents. Our access to and from campground or any one of the developments do not meet those requirements. You must make changes now before you allow them to build. The number of vehicles traveling, come Thursday, the new bridge opens up, and I'll guarantee you there'll be 100+ cars going through there like you can't believe, flying as fast as they can over the new bridge. Please do something before the accidents happen.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Smith, and I live in Fairhaven as well at 329 Noah Place. I also spoke in opposition at the zoning board meeting. I will just echo the same comments. I much appreciate Commissioner Barham and Chris Knight and the collaboration and the work, the reduction to the 105 and the other things that have been presented, and believe that this is a much better solution, and am definitely in favor of the conservation subdivision as proposed.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else? There's 15 seconds remaining. Anyone else at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll now allow those who wishes to speak in opposition. Again, a collective time total of 10 minutes to speak. Again, if you'll state your name and address,
Bill
please.
Tony, 155. Again, everything's cut and dried before we even come up here. So the public comment thing is just about, it's a ruse. We've got infrastructure problems. It's not, y'all just can't keep putting houses in here. This is crazy. I think 3 of y'all up for election next year. I certainly hope everybody out there remembers exactly what y'all did. 3 of you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward now. Again, anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward now. Hearing none, seeing none, that concludes our public hearing. And at this time, we'll invite the developer to come back to address any questions or comments from the board. So at this time, are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay. Hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
Before I make a motion, I'd like to say I want to thank the community for taking the time to sit down and meet with myself and Chris Knight and Steve Moore. We had numerous meetings on this, and yes, we do try to meet and try to get the very best thing we can get for Henry County, and I don't shy away from that. And I think we've got this project to the best place we can, and I'm ready to move forward.
Okay, so you're making a motion.
I would move to overturn the ZAB denial of the applicant's request for a conditional use and allow a conservation subdivision with the following conditions. Number 1, the average lot size shall be 18,000 square feet. Number 2, a privacy fence shall be placed along the northern, eastern, and southern property line between the subject property and the property lines of 708 Elliott Road. Number 3, there shall be a 100-foot landscape buffer between the subject property and Elliott Road. Number 4, the maximum allowed lots is 105. No, the next condition, lot widths would be 100 foot wide. And let's see. 6, all yards will be fully sodded with street lights. There'll also be another condition to add a 100-foot wide future right-of-way must be shown on the final plat for the Campground Road extension. And that's it.
Okay, well, we have a motion to overturn the denial with those conditions as read. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any further discussion or comments? All in favor? Okay. The denial is overturned. Thank you. All right, we'll now move into our next public hearing, and it's with Farouk Akbar requesting a modification to zoning conditions for property located at 1666 Highway 81 East, and this is located in District 1. So again, we thank you, Ms. Nieves, for this presentation.
Good evening again, Chair and Commissioners. The request before you tonight concerns property located at 1666 Highway 81 East. The subject property is currently zoned C2 General Commercial and was rezoned in 2006 as part of a larger tract of land for a commercial development. The applicant is requesting to eliminate 4 zoning conditions of that 2006 rezoning so that the subject property may be sold and potentially developed as a gym and 6 commercial tenant spaces as per the applicant's letter of intent. Of the 4 conditions requested to be eliminated, 2 conditions, number 1 and 11, do not apply to the subject property, as the original rezoning request in 2006 included the subject property together with another tract of land. The elimination of conditions 7 and 10 would allow the subject property to be developed independent of an existing gas station, which is to the north, and an adjacent shopping center, both of which are outside of the boundary of the subject property. Seeing as how these conditions no longer apply to the subject property or require the property to conform to 2 separate businesses outside of its boundaries, staff recommends approval of the applicant's request, and I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments before we begin the public hearing? Commissioner Wilson.
This property still falls under the highway overlay district, correct?
Yes, Commissioner Nelson, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. Hearing none, we will now invite up the applicant to speak in favor. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? And again, there will be a total collective time of 10 minutes given. So at this time, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor? Good evening. If you'll state your name and address, please.
Hi, Chair. My name is Dottie Tony, and I represent the owner, Dr. Akbar. He is selling these two lots at this time, and he just needs the modification changed because when it was zoned previously, it was zoned C2 as a combination, and as explained, that many of the modifications no longer apply. So I would appreciate your consideration. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, to please come forward? Again, anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll now invite up anyone wishing to speak in opposition. A total of 10 minutes will be given to the group. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, to please come forward now.
Bill Tony, 155, Highway 155. If you're going to put conditions on these properties, why would you be taking them off? I don't get it. It's just like you just put a bunch of conditions on these guys for the subdivision. If you're going to take them away, what's the point in all this? Again, I hope all the voters listening to this.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. Seeing none, that concludes the public hearing at this time. So again, if there are any questions or comments from the board. Okay. Hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a second. Any further discussions or comments? All in favor? Okay. That condition is approved. We'll now move into our next public hearing. And again, we welcome Ms. Nieves up to speak to RZ 1820 in District 3. It's the Reservoir Group requesting a rezoning from RA, residential agriculture, to residential suburban for property located on Willow Lane. And again, this is in District 3, and it's a request for a single-family residential and townhome development.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
This rezoning request is for property located on either side of Willow Lane to the north of Hopewell Place, as highlighted in green. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from RA to RS, residential suburban, for the development of a 44-lot single-family home development on the east side of Willow Lane and a 56-unit townhome development on the west side of Willow Lane. And I'll place the site plan on the screen. So the single-family development on the east side of Willow Lane, the applicant has proposed to connect to the existing subdivision to the south, Pembroke Park. This portion of the development would not take access off of Willow Lane, but instead only access from Emporia Loop from interior to the subdivision. As you can see, the subject property is divided by Willow Lane. The east portion is designated on our future land use map as mixed use, while the west is high-density residential. Both of these future land use designations allow a density of up to 16 dwelling units per net acre. The development as proposed has a combined density of 8.25 dwelling units per acre and is in compliance with the future land use map designation of the property. Staff recommends approval of the applicant's request with 7 conditions. There is an additional condition which is being recommended by staff, and it's shown in italics, which I'll place on the screen now, but I'll also read out for the record. All disturbed areas shall be sodded except where landscaping is present or installed. Thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Okay. Are there any questions at this time? Okay. And would you remind us of the ZABs?
The Zoning Advisory Board recommended approval.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other questions or comments at this time from the board before we begin the public hearing? Okay. Seeing none, we will begin the public hearing. Again, this is an opportunity for those wishing to speak in favor to please come forward now. Again, the collective group will have 10 minutes, including the applicant.
Good evening again.
Good
Steve
evening.
Moore, Moore-Bass Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia, representing the Reservoir Group in this rezoning. As Yuritsa said, the single-family portion of the RS rezoning is just an extension and a continuation of Pembroke Park. In fact, there's actually a stubbed-out road and right-of-way to the property for that purpose, which exists right here. The lot sizes are consistent and compatible with what was approved in that subdivision, and also meet the RS zoning district, which we're requesting. On the other side, on the west side of Willow Lane, the townhomes we're proposing, we felt like that was an appropriate use. This board approved recently, within the last several months, or a couple months, a multifamily zoning off of Mount Carmel Road, which is adjacent to this tract, in not quite adjacent, but in very close proximity. That property actually is adjacent to it. It's right here. Yeah, and it exists on this vicinity map. It's right there. But it is, currently it shows it's zoned RA right there on the map, and it's actually, because at the time this was prepared, it was not RA, but it is RM. We believe that with this zoning, or with this land use district adjacent to that RM, that it's a consistent and compatible use there. There is no open space requirement under the RS zoning district, but we are proposing approximately 8 acres of open space that will be owned and maintained by the HOA, and there will obviously be a mandatory HOA that would govern these 2 projects. We're consistent with the future land use map. We think we're compatible with the adjacent zonings. We got a unanimous approval from the Zoning Advisory Board and approval from staff, or recommendation of approval from staff. We feel like it's a good fit, and at this point, I'll sit down and come up and answer any questions that you've got when the time comes.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor to please come forward? Again, anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward now. Okay, seeing none, we will now grant a total of 10 minutes for a group of individuals wishing to speak in opposition.
Bill Tony, 155. Y'all don't get it. You cannot keep putting houses and boxes in here. You're running out of roads. The people out here, the people in the county, they don't want this stuff. They can't hardly move now. I'm telling you, when they unleash all those warehouses that's being built right now and those trucks and everything, you can't hardly get through McDonough for tractor trailers now. We're building a school over here that off the square. It's crazy. Y'all gonna have to cut this out. I mean, it's crazy. Gary, buddy, you need to get off the block, start keeping that hand down. You're not doing good for the county. I hope that you understand that you're one of the ones that's totally destroying this county. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Again, anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to please come forward now. Okay, hearing none, that concludes our public hearing. We'll invite our applicant back up and address any questions or comments from the board. Okay, are there any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, seeing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
Move to approve with the 8 conditions.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we have 4 in support and 1 opposition. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now move into the next public hearing, and this is RZ 1825, and it too is in District 3. And this is with Manalay Properties requesting a rezoning from RA Residential Agriculture to R5 Single Family Residence for property located at the west side of Highway 155. And again, this is in District 3. The request is for a single family residential subdivision.
Good evening, Chair Wood.
Good evening.
Commissioners. The subject property is illustrated on the overhead and also in your exhibit books. The zoning map is displayed. The property is outlined in green, and it's currently zoned RA. You can see that it's in the vicinity of a lot of property that's within the city limits of McDonough, which is indicated in this mint green. The applicant's subject property is located within an area that's designated for medium-density residential uses up to 6 dwelling units per acre. The applicant's request is for 28 lots on 17.9 acres for a net density of 2.1 dwelling units per acre. So the future land use map does support the applicant's request. You can see from this aerial the intensity of development in the immediate vicinity of the subject property. The applicant's site plan shows that there is substantial floodplain, which is shaded on this preliminary and conceptual site plan. It shows the lots at an R5 configuration with a minimum lot size of 10,890 square feet. And this would allow for the 28 lots as proposed by the applicant. Staff has evaluated the applicant's request. We noted the future land use map designation of up to 6 dwelling units per acre. The Zoning Advisory Board had a hearing on May the 14th. They recommended denial of the applicant's request for R5. They did recommend approval of R3 with the condition that all homes shall consist of 3 sides brick. And I'd be very pleased to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions from the board at this time? Okay, yes.
Stacy, since this is on a state highway, is that a traffic study? Is that something that we would do, or is that something the state highway department would do? How?
The Unified Land Development Code has criteria for whether to require a traffic impact study or not. Regardless, the site distance will need to be met according to the posted speed limit of the road. Because this is a state route, and a state route is defined as a major arterial, there will be a requirement for a right turn lane, regardless of the impact of the development. And these things will be handled in the development plan review process. In addition to the county's requirements through the Unified Land Development Code, the Georgia DOT will also have certain standards that will be required to be met in order for the development to have access onto the state route.
Okay, thanks.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, so we will enter into the public hearing at this moment and grant a total of 10 minutes to anyone wishing to speak in favor of this, including any applicants. Again, if you will state your name and address, please.
Good evening, board. My name is Royce Grant. My address is 4170 Chattahoochee Road, Cumming, Georgia. I'm here before you tonight seeking rezoning on 17.9 acres on Highway 155, just north of the square of McDonough. Originally, the intent was to rezone from RA to R5, and I'm no longer seeking the R5. Mr. Barham, I know we had a conversation. I know you really kind of frowned on the R4, but I wanted to make one last one last shot at maybe if we do an R4 with some pretty stringent conditions. And what I was looking at is the future land use map for this tract is allows up to 6 units per acre. What I was going to propose, and I understand that one of your concerns were the lot size and the lot widths. What I'm proposing as a condition would be a minimum lot width of 100 feet, a minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet. The 100-foot width would match the subdivision to the south, which is Heritage at Town Square. The Heritage at Town Square lots are 18,000 square feet, and I would propose a 15,000 square foot lot. I also like to propose a 2,400 heated square foot area, sodded yards, and side entry garages. Also, the land that is west of the utility easement, if we could do the R4 conditional, I'd be interested in placing that. It's roughly 5.16 acres. There's roughly 3 acres that are in the floodplain and roughly 2 acres that is not, and I'd be willing to place that into open space as well. I think this kind of falls more in line with the neighborhood to the south, which is Heritage Point or Heritage at Town Square. The density of Heritage is 2.1 as a net, and I'd also like to put a hard limit on the lot count of 23 lots. And I would like to, we could also put some kind of verbiage in there that would be a maximum. There could be no future phases, no additions. It would be a hard lot count of 23 for the entire neighborhood. The gross density for 23 lots would be 1.35, and the net density would be 1.5 units per acre. And just take in mind that the future land use map would allow for up to 6. Heritage at Town Square is 2.1 net, which is the property to the south. The property to the west is Huntington Ridge, which is 4 units per acre. And to the north is Pinnacle Point, and granted it's a retirement community, but that net density is 4.37 units per acre. Also further south on 155, about 1,800 feet from this site, lots were approved in the city of McDonough, and they were approved for 60-foot lots, 8,000 square feet at Judy Drive and 155. So that's roughly 1,800 feet away from this site due south. A couple years ago, this site was looked at, not by me, but it was looked at to be annexed possibly in the city of McDonough, and the city of McDonough had a site plan that was submitted to them for 38 lots. So I'm just trying to do something that fits in with the community. Mr. Barham, I've heard your concerns, and we started at the R5. I went to an R4. I'm trying something else at R4 conditional, so I'm trying my best to work with you and the community. This is a grade A site. This is definitely going to be a showcase for McDonough. So, with that being said, these lots, the development costs are going to be expensive. These lots are going to be $65,000, $70,000 lots just for the lot. So they're going to be, the home price will be well over $300,000, which I think will do well in this community in that area. Really, guys, I just appreciate your consideration. Be glad to answer any questions for you.
Okay, at this time, this is a public hearing, so we'll allow anyone else wishing to speak in favor to come forward,
Thank
and
you.
we'll invite you back. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Steve Agee, and I recognize I was late getting here, coming in from Gainesville, so I did not have a chance to sign in with County Clerk, but I'll be glad to do that for speaking here.
This is a public hearing for the current zoning, yes.
My name is Steve Agee. I reside at 3430 Lake Seminole Place, Beaufort, Georgia, 30519. I'm one of the co-owners of that property, the 17.9 acres. My twin sister, Stevan Agee Wells, is also here. She resides at 5656 Charles Drive in Macon, Georgia. I appreciate the opportunity to address the board very quickly. Just to let you know somewhat, we admit we're outsiders. But ever since we received that property from our father who passed away in November 2006, we're going through, like so many other people around here, the 2008, 2009, 2010 crash or recession. And subsequently, when markets started picking up, I realized that Henry County and the development, particularly to the north and Stockbridge and other areas, and now to the south, you had lots of bank-owned properties. So our property was sitting with prime location, obviously did not have the real high look at that time because there were so many other bank-owned properties that had to be disposed of. And as the developer Royce mentioned earlier, we started in 2016 by another developer, and that petition was filed May 25th, 2016, requesting rezoning from RA to R3. Okay, now I realize there was a different board there. And I'll be honest with you, I can't tell you exact specifics of that particular R3 as opposed to current R3, but that was not favored by the existing board. And there were also issues about sewer or septic and everything that was going on in so many counties. After that, we went through the legislative annexation by the city of McDonough, in which they tried to proceed out to the west to 75, and of course that crashed and burned. After that, we tried to get 100% annexation with the city of McDonough, and that started in late 2016, going through spring, March, or April 2017, and right before that was to be voted on by the city, in which the mayor of McDonough had already made reference to this new property coming into the city, we found out that the city attorney for McDonough and the county attorney properly recognized that there was a problem with the island situation in that property, and therefore that annexation was not carried through. And then finally, in late 2017 and all through 11 months of 2018, we went through the legislative annexation by the city of McDonough. Of course, that was approved by the General Assembly. Bill was signed by the governor July 1st, 2018, but then the effective voters, turned that down on, I think, November 22nd, 2018. So here we are. And why I say this, folks, is that, somewhere, it's been mentioned before by another speaker, somewhere we realize we're outsiders, but we think we're entitled to some, at least, consistent or some look at our property, because we also have a right to some type of reasonable value in our property. And we think the proposal that was originally made as approved or submitted by the planning staff was certainly consistent with what the R5. I certainly agree and certainly support what Royce has proffered to the board tonight about his attempts to try to work with the board to try to find some reasonable way to get the property zoned so that it's certainly consistent with the existing communities, but also consistent with the needs of the county. And let me just close by saying we've tried to be good citizens. 10, 11 years ago, we removed the agricultural tax exemption from it. So for 11 years, we've been paying the taxes on it. And we tried to be good neighbors, even though we were absent neighbors. We weren't in the area. But I would just extremely, or would certainly request that the considerations be based upon that which has been presented to the board and with the exhibits that are made. And I certainly appreciate it. I know on behalf of my sister, the board's consideration, Mr. Barham's personal contact and working with our developer, and we appreciate your consideration in this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else wishing to speak
Sorry,
in
Board, I
favor of
forgot
6
one
seconds?
last item that I was going to address was the facade. And what I'd propose is another condition for
I'm
facade.
sorry, sir, we're out of time
Okay.
to speak in favor, so thank you. So at this time now, we'll allow anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Again, we'll be granted a total of 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition.
Good evening. My name's Warren Tillery. I'm a resident of the Ben Horton subdivision, which is going to be right across the street from this. So there's a couple of concerns, and one of the main concerns, and I attended the zoning advisory board hearing and spoke there too, is density. And the reason is density can be a little bit misleading. So what we can see on the property is that on the other side of that transmission line, it's largely floodplain. Some portion of that is arguably encumbered by an easement for the transmission line. So when you talk about densities, though, it's calculated as the whole. But in reality, the houses are going on the east side of the transmission line, which effectively means you're compressing the amount of the lots. So the way that I talked about it at the zoning advisory hearing was it's realistically less than quarter-acre lots. That's really the density you're looking at. If you crunch the numbers here from what the applicant has proposed now at R4, you're looking at a third of an acre lot. So just to kind of put that in perspective, I applaud that the developer has been sensitive to these concerns. He's been willing to come up with some items that can appease some of these concerns. But it all comes back to really at the very end, what we're down to is we've got more dense homes coming into Henry County. And I think that that's a problem, especially when you're placing them right in the middle of an area that's already developed with homes and lot sizes that are much larger. It's not consistent. And one of the neighborhoods that they talked about the density on is Heritage. And there's some representatives here tonight who are going to speak about that. And their density is 2 to 1, but they're also a covenant-controlled community. So that means that they have additional protections in place that are not really within the purview of the Board of Commissioners because they've got an autonomous architectural control committee that can tell you yay or nay on what you can do in the lots. So that's the way it's designed. I haven't heard anything about whether this new proposal would have anything like that, but even if it did, ordinarily the declarant in those type of situations reserves exemptions for himself. So what does that mean? Well, it means you come back to density. If you look in the criteria specifically, there's a few points that talks about, and I'm really addressing point 5, dealing with the impact upon adjacent property owners. Well, let's talk about the situation for Ben Horton. Ben Horton Drive has somewhere between 3/4 of an acre to a little over an acre per lot, and that's the subdivision directly across the street. Net density is much different there. It's not really apples and apples with Heritage because they've got the autonomous board. And so it doesn't fit. This isn't tailored towards seniors, so the density is not the same as it would be for Town Point. For Pinnacle Point, it's not really the same as Ashley Oaks, which is a much more expansive community. So again, at this point, it just is related to density. It doesn't matter to me that they're outsiders, such as the gentleman tried to say. You know, Henry County is one of the fastest growing counties in the country, or at least it has been for a good number of years, and we welcome outsiders to come in, but I would encourage the board to stick to smart growth that makes sense to do it. And while the applicant has proposed new conditions tonight, I'm not sure that we're quite there yet. So with that, I'll yield to anybody else who may have comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Vanessa Thomas, Weatherstaff Lane in McDonough. I oppose to any land development, any residential properties that are being built along Highway 55, 20, or 81 until we get the traffic problem situated. We've talked about doing traffic studies. That really is not enough unless it's implemented and things being recommended and it be implemented prior to any type of more new development in housing. And although these are only 23 lots, this is also in the city of McDonough, the downtown area, where it showed on the map all of the other homes that were around in that area, which are again, it's very densely populated in that area with not much room to growth as far as the traffic. So recommend that this request be denied. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward.
My name is Robert Russell. I live on Town Square Drive as well. I can't speak as eloquently as the man in the back spoke about the neighborhood and the density and everything, but what I do know is that when me and my wife and my family bought that home, we bought it for the scenery, we bought it for the amount of land that we have, and where this development is talking about something that I could directly see out of my bedroom window, what I don't want to see, it seems as if he's going to be building something that's a little less than the neighborhood of where we're living at right now, and I'm not really sure how that would possibly affect my taxes and things of that nature, but I do know with all those other things that's been passed today, and then with this as well, the traffic is already bad, as this man has been saying many and many times, and right there on 155, it's just a two-lane street. There's just no room for additional housing, and what we pay for is what we want. I much rather to wake up in the morning, open my blinds and see deer and doe than to see construction and more traffic that's already saturated right here in this county. So I also oppose.
Good evening, Deborah McCrae, Heritage at Town Square. And I'd like to add my opposition to this plan development. I want to reiterate, of course, the comments made about traffic, congestion, the extreme safety issues that, I don't know, this gentleman has made more than enough of a statement tonight on how serious it is and how much of an inconvenience and probably life-threatening it can be. I also want to reiterate what the gentleman that first spoke, Mr. Tillery, mentioned about the heritage of Town Square and how we're a strictly governed neighborhood. We have an HOA that's been in place since the initiation of the neighborhood. We conform to strict architectural standards in addition to the covenants and bylaws. I want to say that I too am, and I forget the term that was used, but I'm a stranger to this land. I'm not initially from Georgia, but I've made Henry County my home now for almost 20 years. I've raised my children, and it has been a wonderful experience. We'd love to see the neighborhood, the county remain, and there must be growth and progression, but we'd love to see the neighborhood remain aesthetically the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Tony Dobson, and unlike the gentleman said, by being an outsider, I'm not an outsider. I bought my home in 2003, and I've been here for almost 16 years. And when I moved here, traffic at the town square was a problem. And it's continually got worse. I don't know if any one of you guys ever tried to go up 155 toward Locust Grove. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. 2081, same thing. It's a nightmare. I mean, you like I said, you just can't keep packing people in this county. Right now, you guys are already behind the 8 ball. You know, your planning is not keeping up with the number of homes and the people you're bringing into the county. You know, and like this gentleman said, just trying to get from my subdivision onto 155 in the morning, it's almost like, you know, take your chance. You know, it's just, like I said, you guys, I mean, you just can't keep packing people in here.
Thank you.
I know I'm short on time. Reed Birch, I live on Ben Horton Drive. Point I want to make is that we have 2 entrances to our subdivision. This proposed neighborhood's going to be across from one of those, and several of my neighbors that live on that side where this street's going to be actually go around to the other entrance to make a left-hand turn. But another intersection right here is a terrible idea, especially when we got town, the other neighborhood right next to it, all in that same area, 3 streets converging right there. Okay.
Okay. Well, we thank you for your comments, and at this time, that concludes our public hearing. So at this time, we'll invite up the applicant and address any questions or comments from the board. Okay, the floor is now open for questions. Yes, Commissioner Barnes.
Mr. Grant, we've had several conversations about this property, and I still hadn't changed my stance, and I want to ask you, would you accept the R3 zoning, 18,000 square foot homes?
18,000 square foot lots?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You do R3?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all the question I got.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, Commissioner Wilson.
Size of the homes. What size of the homes goes on these lots? 2,400. Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Okay, one question I have regarding the oversight committee or the covenant group that the other community spoke about. You have a reply to that?
If we would like to make condition to have a mandatory homeowners association, it'd be fine with that.
I'm sorry, can you say that
If you'd like to
again?
make a condition to have a mandatory homeowners association, that'd be fine as well.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Holmes?
More information on the exterior of the homes.
Yes, sir. What I've proposed is all the homes will be consistent of all brick or all stone, or 2 of the following on all 4 sides: brick, stone, cement, fiberboard.
Three-sided.
Okay.
Okay, other questions or comments from the board? Okay. Hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
I make a motion that we deny the R5 but allow the R3 zoning with a minimum square foot lot, homes, is 2,400 square foot, all side entry garages where feasible. It'd be 3-sided bricks, and in the front you can change it up however you want to on the front. The rear and 2 sides be all brick. And you follow all the other rules of the R3 zoning.
Mr. Barham, on the 3-side brick, is there any flexibility on that, at least to give me some options to use something other than just brick on the 3 sides?
I would like for the rear and the two sides to be all brick, and in the front you can have some allowances to do some other things.
Can you at least give me the option to do brick or stone?
Yes, I'll do that.
All right.
Make that part of the condition. And another condition that you have a mandatory home on the subsection.
Okay.
Okay.
That's my motion.
Okay, we've heard the motion from R5 to R3 with the conditions that were just stated. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we got a second. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor? Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now moving to our next zoning matter. It is a public hearing regarding Stella Daly requested a rezoning from residential agricultural to single-family residence for property located at 707 Peach Drive, and that is in District 4, and the request is for a single-family residential development. And as we begin this presentation, I just want to disclose that this proposed development is in the community that I reside in, and I, again, just wanted to fully disclose that as we begin the public hearing process, and I will treat it as a regular public hearing. Okay?
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments before we begin the presentation? Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair Wood, Commissioners. The request before you is at 707 Peach Drive. It's indicated in the green highlighted area. You can see from this aerial the intensity of development that completely surrounds this subject property. This pink area indicates PD, which is planned development. The yellow indicates an R4, actually, to the south of the subject property. The future land use map calls for a medium density residential at up to 6 dwelling units per acre. The applicant's request is for 43 lots on 50 acres, and it has a corresponding net density of 2.2 dwelling units per acre. Staff has evaluated the applicant's request. We have noted the future land use map designation, which allows up to 6 dwelling units per acre. The Zoning Advisory Board held a hearing on March the 14th and took public comment. They considered the dam, and they did add a condition to the staff recommended condition. And so the Zoning Advisory Board recommended approval with the 8 conditions that are in your exhibit books and also on the overhead. I'd be very pleased to answer any questions.
Okay, and again, you've got the ZAB's recommendation, which is staff recommendation. Again, would you just state it for the record?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the staff's recommendation?
Yes, ma'am. The staff's recommendation was approval with 7 conditions, and the Zoning Advisory Board agreed with those 7, but added condition number 8 regarding the dam.
Okay. So we've heard the presentation. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay. Well, we'll begin the public hearing, and at this time, we'll wish anyone wishing to speak in favor, including the applicant, is invited to come up, and we'll begin. State your name and address, please.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. My name is George Harper with Paramount Engineering, 11 East Broad Street, Noonan, Georgia. I'm representing the applicant this evening for the rezoning. As Stacy said, the Zoning Advisory Group recommended approval with the 8 conditions. We are in agreement with all 8 of these conditions, except number 7. We would like a little modification to the 3,000 square foot minimum. These are going to be custom homes, and so if they have a 1-story floor plan that they would like to do, we would like to a little bit of flexibility to maybe have that at 2,500 square feet instead. But all of the other conditions would be just fine. An engineering study has already kind of been performed on the dam. They made some recommendations, but we haven't proceeded any further, obviously, until the rezoning is finalized. I did want to correct one thing. Stacy said that the net density would be 2.2 acres. It's actually 1.2 acres would be the net density. I think, and that was in the report as well. So just for clarification. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward now.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and Board. My name is Susan Cloudis, and I'm a real estate agent and a resident in the Eagles Landing area. Wanted to give you brief background on how this property came about. I've been selling homes in the area for a number of years in Eagles Landing, and always saw the lots on Bethpage and wondered why they'd never been developed. Long story short, back in the fall of last year, I contacted Miss Stella Daly, who is the owner of the property. I asked her about her willingness to sell. After a meeting and several conversations, she determined that she would be willing to sell the property. And the developer, ENS Developers, did a contract to purchase the property. This property is over 50 acres, as has been stated. The lots are beautiful. The lake is beautiful. It will be a great asset to the Eagles Landing community. The lot prices range from $120,000 for interior lots to over $200,000 for lake lots. Of the 43 proposed lots, there are over 30 that have already been, there's interest in them, and lot reservations have been done pursuant to the developer purchasing the property. I understand that there is a petition by some opponents to this project. I will tell you, for those that don't know, Eagles Landing is comprised of 839 lots. The petition that has come to my attention through email has a total of 98 signatures, which represents 65 individuals, which is less than 10% of the community that opposes this. There is no detriment to the community whatsoever, or I would not be speaking in favor of it. The homes that are going to be built are individual lot owners that will build their own personal homes there, with the lot cost being 20 to 25% of the total price of a home. The homes will more than likely range in price from $700,000 to over $1 million. So we all see the benefit of these new homes in this community. The new homes, the lots that will be developed, will be in accordance with the covenants that currently exist to all other Eagles Landing lots which are behind the gates. I can see no reason why this project would be anything but wonderful for the Eagles Landing community, and I thank you in advance for your support.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward now.
My name's Judy Smith. I live in the Eagles Landing Country Club community. I moved here in 1994. I've been in Henry County since then. And I just want to come up and support this because one of the reasons we moved to Henry was because of the planned communities that were developed by Killearn developers. And in 2007, when we began to look at property in the Eagles Landing Country Club area, we had to drive by Bethpage where these proposed properties are, and we had done much questioning about this area, noting that there were already water meter boxes, water lines sticking up along Bethpage, indicating that it was part of this planned community to have all of those lots as part of the community, similar to the other lots that were developed in other phases of the community. It would feel like it would be important to maintain that planned communities should at all make every effort to complete their plan, because when we invest in a home, which for me is one of the biggest investments we've ever made, is that you would like it to feel like that the investigation you do about a planned community will be completed. This fits the existing community. It was planned as being part of the community. Back when we moved here in 1994, we saw it as part of the plat plan of the original community, and I, for one, would very much like to see it completed, because part of the reason I invested in this community was because of the plan and design for the community. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Commissioners, for the opportunity to speak. My name is Brenda Culpepper. My address is 837 Cog Hill, McDonough, Georgia. I am president of the Eagles Landing Property Owners Association, which is a wonderful community, as you've heard, 839 plats on 14 miles of road and 3,000 acres. As the board, our focus has been on what is in the best interest for the sum of its parts. The sum of its parts, not just Eagles Landing Country Club community, but what is in the best interest of the city of Stockbridge, McDonough, Henry County, South Atlanta, and the state of Georgia. It is our opinion that the use that's being put forth would be in all of our best interests, not just myself, but those that live along the Peach Drive corridor. We have other subdivisions that would be affected by this situation, and we just appreciate so very much you taking the time to give this full consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward now.
Elton Alexander, 920 Maple Leaf Drive, McDonough, Georgia. I want to speak in favor of this development. I live right down the street on Peach Drive in Winslow at Eagles Landing. And it sounds like it's quality development, and the community, this new development should show some increase in home prices in the area and new development in the area. It's very encouraging to see this. The only question that I have is item number 5, which says each abutting lot right of way Peach Drive. Is there a condition for sidewalks that will help us to be along Peach Drive to be able to allow us to complete sidewalks so the new residents will be able to walk safely to Flippin Elementary? That's been something that I've been trying to champion, to have sidewalks put along Peach Drive. If that is the case, then I'm wholeheartedly for this, but I want to make sure that we embrace and that we improve the community at the same time outside the gate, because many of these young people will be walking to school to Flippin Elementary, and it is a shame that we don't have sidewalks already there. It would be a great addition to the community if we could add the sidewalks. But the overall plan itself is an excellent plan and should be supported. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Again, anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward now. Hearing none, seeing none, we will now allow a total of 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition to please come forward now.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mala, and my house is on very close to this property, which is on Bethpage. And my concerns are high traffic and high HOA dues. And I don't agree with them. Like, I don't know how the property values are going to go high, because our houses being already like 10, 20 years old, when the new inventory is there, our demand, since there is more supply and less demand, we are not going to, who's buying our houses? And the property values of our houses will go down. That is my concerns. And I feel that there is no need to add this to the already matured subdivision like us, which has over 800 houses already. So why can't they have it as a separate subdivision by itself? So that's all, so that I can give other people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Rao Maravineni. I live on the 117 Glen Eagle Way in the subdivision. I've been there for the last 16 years. So I have several concerns about this project. First of all, how this project came, what is the intent behind it, is it good for the community, how much due diligence is done on this project, overall traffic, safety of dam, the maintenance of it, you know, how would this look like? Even when in March 14th, the advisory, the zoning that took place, no one has a clue in the community that this is taking place. The board has kept so quiet. Maybe good intention, I have no idea. But the truth is, it's been so quiet. No one has a clue what is happening. And we just came to know the last few weeks ago about this project. So I think there's a lot more due diligence needed to know, is it safe? Who is going to take care of the dam? Thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands, category 1 to be there, very safe. That should be taken care of. But nothing, there's no concrete plan in place at this point to address that, except to meet some timelines that they have. They want to go forward and just do it. It's not in the best interest of the community. And somebody mentioned only less than 10%. Their math is totally wrong. There may be 830 houses, so on and so forth. But many of them are not aware of this project. Even I talk to my neighbors, they have no clue. The one who is aware, about 100 signatures are out there. I've given to Vivian Thomas and Commissioner, and I appreciate her time as well. They're not in favor of this. This may be a great project, but a lot more to be done in terms of traffic study, the Peach Drive where it's going to be. There's a school already there, heavy traffic, and 830 people, there's more than 1,500 cars going in that street. This is going to add a lot more commotion. So I don't know what study was done to address it. The safety of children, parents, drivers, people who are going to the job, so much to be done. I just don't feel nothing was done there, or not much done to substantiate the safety of that. And second, the maintenance of the dam, you know, who is going to be responsible? Who will sign off on it? Who will take care of escrows, the maintenance, just not coming in, developing and going, and leaving it for the rest of the people and their generations to come. It's a beautiful project, a #1 project, you know, what should be the case. And also, not much to the community so far, because we have developed this hundreds of people over 20 years, and many amenities are developed. The developer wants to come in there and just grab the opportunity, the amenities for the residents, the newer residents, without much substantial amount to be paid to the community. So there are several issues about financial, dam, lake, traffic, safety that is coming into play. And at any given time, there are about 20 to 30 houses on sale in the subdivision at the minimum. And one can easily look at the websites. So how are those houses going to be sold when there's a new 43 lots being developed by this community is going to be my major concern. One hand, the taxes are rising, but the property values are not going up, and this is going to put further dent on those values that's being put forward. That's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward now.
Hi, my name is Vikram Andadi. I live at 806 Cog Hill. I'm a neighbor of Brenda. And the project seems nice, but there's some issues that have not been addressed. One is, in Eagles Landing, as Ms. Wood knows, there's different developments. One is Eagles Nest, which are smaller homes. And with the lots, square lots, our minimum square footage only 3,000, that's not consistent with the rest of the homes in Eagles Landing. So if you want to build a home there, that's great. Just make it the same as everyone else, which is 4,500, as we know. If you want to make it separate, then that should be designated as a separate lot. The second thing is these roads are not governed by Henry County. They're governed by the Eagles Landing Board and the Housing Association. So we're all responsible within that community to maintain those roads. With the increased traffic, that means degradation of the roads. That means who's going to pay for that? There's a bridge that is in escrow because we don't know when it's going to collapse. Same thing is going to happen with this dam. It's a Class 2 dam. Actually should be listed as Class 1 with state regulation when it comes along with it. That has not been addressed. So the issue is, if you want to be, there should be transparency, which has not really happened with this. And within the governing boards, there should be majority rule about new projects. Simple thing is, if you're going to have more than 10 people at your home for cars, majority of the society has to approve that. Now you're asking for 43 new homes that are smaller than the rest of the society, and there's no majority approval for this. There's no vote within our thing. This is a architectural and closed committee plan development which has not gone through that process. All we're asking is the project be great, increase everyone's values, but be consistent, be transparent, and there's no transparency in this. And that's the reason why I'm opposing it. If they can answer those questions and have the impact in financial, transparency, and consistency of a minimum of 4,500 square feet for each home, then that would be consistent with everyone else and without reducing people's home values. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
I'm Tarsem Gupta. I've been living there 25 years in Eagles Landing. I concur with what's been already said. You know, the majority of the houses there are over 4,500 square feet. To make another 2,500 is really not fair. People who've been already there. It's going to depreciate the values. Traffic is a big problem. But when I moved there, you can easily go on a country club drive without any problem. Now we probably will need a light there pretty soon. You know, it's in the morning, there is like 4 or 5 cars. You have to wait 2-3 minutes till the light turns red before you can go. So traffic is a major, major issue, like it has been already brought up. So I'm completely opposed. We need more information, more traffic studies before we add more houses to Eagles Landing. It's already 900. I don't know how many more we want to put in there. So if it need to be put in, it should be at least 4,500 square foot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward.
I'm Narayan Bhatt. I'm in 713 Bethpage Drive. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for giving me the time. And I'm opposing this for the only fact that it's like just a family. I want to bring somebody into my house. I need to know who the person is and how am I going to take care of the baby or the member who's coming into my house. Similarly, I feel that every resident in Eagles Landing do not know about the whole project. They don't know what's coming in. So I would request you all to at least postpone or delay the decision so that everybody would know and they can make a decision. It's a great project, and if everything goes right, we are very much in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward now. Again, anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward now. Okay, seeing none, that concludes our public hearing. So at this time, we'll invite the applicant back up and we will address any questions or comments from the board. Okay, Commissioner Thomas.
And for the people that are here and everyone, my name is Vivian Thomas and I am a resident of the Eagles Landing Country Club subdivision as well. And I serve as your commissioner of District 4. And I have received a number of emails and text messages in reference to this development and have taken the time to do an extensive amount of research in reference to it, have asked the Planning and Development Board to do an extensive amount of research as well to help me make the best decision and representation to the BOC here, the Board of Commissioners here as well. What I want to say to the individuals who are concerned about the fact that most people don't know about this development. The residents of Eagles Landing and everyone else have to take responsibility to pay attention to the developments in the area and the signing that was placed around the area to learn about the zoning and hearings and come to those particular hearings. I also know that the Eagles Landing Country Club Association have meetings once a month. And it is our responsibility to go to those meetings if we want to know what's happening in our community. So that's everyone's responsibility, and I know opportunities have been granted to make sure that the residents are very well educated as to what is happening in the community. I have a couple of questions that I do want to ask the applicant and ask our Stacy as well. I've heard a lot of comments and received quite a few emails in reference to the lake and the dam. Stacy, would you or someone from our particular area, if it takes Mr. Gibbs as well, to give us some information about the dam that's there, what class dam that's there, and who is responsible, be it state or be it the county, in reference to monitoring that dam?
I can answer that, Commissioner Thomas. The classification of a dam will be a result of the engineering study that's required per condition number 8, but the Environmental Protection Division, which is a state agency, is responsible for the dam. So anything with respect to what they will require, whether it be a Category 1, Category 2, whether it be certain types of improvements, that is outside of our jurisdiction. But the state will mandate it if they so go that direction.
So am I correct in that the state monitors dams, the states determines the classification, the states determine whether or not there is a dam that requires any type of repairs? Am I correct in that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then there are no particular codes that we have to be aware of as far as a county in reference to the dam. Is that correct?
We are aware of some of the codes and requirements, but we are not required to enforce them because that is a function of the state.
Okay, thank you. And I believe that this subdivision has at least been there 30 years plus. I think some of the brokers that are sitting in the audience can attest to that because they've been selling there 30 years plus. And Mr. Gibbs, do you know of any record of whether this dam has flooded or broken or anything in the past 30 years plus? Anything in record that you've been able to find?
I'm just slightly older than 30. No, I don't have any knowledge as of today regarding that.
Okay, can I ask the applicant, in your engineers having inspect this, I'm assuming that if you're going to invest in this particular area, you've done some research on that dam to make sure you can build around it. Have you done any research about this dam, or your engineers, have you had any research done?
Yes, ma'am. We've done a preliminary study on the dam. They hired the company that I believe inspects most of the dams in the Eagles Landing community. They were recommended by the Homeowners Association, and they came out and did a preliminary study of it, not a full-blown study yet. They made a few recommendations as to some maintenance-type things that can be done, tree removals, fixing a couple of washed-out areas, that type stuff that can be done on the dam. Upon rezoning and the development of this subdivision, then yes, the county will require us to go through and do a full-blown study on it, and whatever recommendations that they make will be done. Yes, ma'am.
As far as this dam, will it complement the community and not be an eyesore when you all do your upgrades in that area?
Yes, ma'am, most definitely. With the lake lots being $250,000, it is well worth our while to make sure it is a very attractive, and to be able to get those prices. We will definitely take care of the dam. There's a little gazebo and a little park area right near the upper end of the dam that we're proposing. So, yes, ma'am, the dam will be very well taken care of as well as the lake, and maintained.
Now, another question that I have been challenged with in emails and text messages as well: who will maintain this dam once the subdivision is complete, or why it's in work in progress? Mm-hmm. Who will maintain that dam?
That will be all the open space around it that is left will become part of the Homeowners Association of Eagles Landing.
Okay. Would you tell me a little bit about this association? Will it be a separate association, or will it be the one that complements Eagles Landing? How are you planning to make this happen?
To my knowledge, they will become part of the Eagles Landing Homeowners Association. Excuse me? No? Okay.
Can someone please address that for me, please?
My apologies.
Thank you.
Brenda Culpepper again. The Bethpage at Eagles Landing lots will be creating their own HOA. Similar to the Nest in Eagles Landing, they will be responsible for all of the common areas, except for the roads. We're going to still maintain the roads because we want them to be at our same standard. However, they are taking over all of the liability, the inspection, the maintenance, and the upkeep of the dam. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and am I going to, or are you all going to work with them to make sure that HOA has the same
Absolutely.
type of requirements as the HOA in place now?
That HOA will be subordinate to ours. They're going to maintain the same covenants, the same levels, the same architectural review. We're going to still hold that close to us, and they are going to work in concert, but they're subordinate to us.
Okay, I also heard a question, since you're standing there, Ms. Culpepper, about the fact that the homes are not meeting the requirements, the architecture requirement that's presently there. And I know that the HOA in Eagles Landing has an architecture committee. Have you all reviewed the plans for these homes to see if they do meet those requirements?
Well, I'd like to, if I could, mitigate some of the confusion. The square footage that's being proposed, the heated square footage, is on one floor. So more than likely, if you're going to put a house on a 1 acre lot, it's going to have 2 floors and a basement. So it could conceivably be 7,000 to 8,000 square feet. All of those plans, there have been no plans submitted yet because the developer has not taken possession of the property, and we have to get through this process as well. But all of the plans, I happen to chair the Architectural Review Committee. All of the plans will be subject to our current architectural review process.
Okay. Well, let me ask the builder once again. Thank you so much, Ms. Culpepper. You asked that the 3,000 square feet be lessened to 2,500 square feet. If we did something of that nature, would you build a full basement under that finish so that that house would be at least 5,000 square feet?
Sorry, we got
I need another
several
person.
people, yeah.
Okay, let's get the next person up here.
I know this is confusing. These are individual lots that are being sold to individuals. And the architectural guidelines will be the same as what is currently in the Eagles Landing covenants and restrictions. Will there be basements? Some of these lots are basement lots, the majority are, but we can't dictate once the lots are sold to individuals, they will have their own floor plans, their own building plans, which will then be given to the Architectural Review Board to be certain those plans are held to the same standards as what the other homes in the community are.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, it does. So then we will make sure that if we have a home that's not on a basement, it must be the 3,000 square feet that's been recommended here. If indeed a home is 2,500 square feet, then it must have a basement to come up to that 5,000 square feet. Okay, as one of the conditions. Because we do not want a home 2,500 square feet or less with no basement. Okay.
What about the 2,500 square feet on the main level and a second,
Or a second level.
minimum, I believe what is it right now, Chris? It's 2,700 square feet right now for a 2-story home.
For heated space, okay.
For heated space, above grade. Not a basement, above grade.
Okay, only with the 2 floors still coming to a minimum of 5,000 square feet, no 2,700 feet minimum, that's it. Am I making sense to you? I'm saying to you, we have a concern that 2,500 square feet are being built with nothing, just 2,500 square feet. We have 2,500 square feet up or lower. I'm saying we need a basement or a second level to add to that 2,500 square feet to increase that square footage.
I don't see an issue with that, other than that would exceed what the current guidelines and covenants are for the community. The 2,500 square feet is a base square footage for a 1-story home, no basement, on a slab. If there's a 2-story, that's where it goes over the 2,500 square feet.
Okay, Ms. Culpepper, if you please return. If you all be patient with me just a little bit, you guys. I want to know what is the basic square footage, heated square feet required for the homes in Eagles Landing. That's what I'm trying to make sure. 2,700 square feet. Okay.
No, 2,700 for heated, yes.
For heated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much. Then we will comply with that. I want to make sure we're building nothing smaller than what we currently have in the Eagles Landing area. That's the goal. Next question is, I heard one person speak about what the homes will sell for. So it's $700,000 the minimum price that the homes will be sold for? Is that an estimate, or are we looking at anything less than that?
That figure was based upon what homes are being built for in the community right now. These are not spec homes, they're going to be custom homes. Custom homes are being built right now per square foot, minimum of $200 a square foot, and that's a bare bones minimum for a new home construction on a custom built home. So the formula that we used is if in almost every situation, the lot cost consists of 20 to 25% of the total home cost. And if you've got a $200,000 lot, and that is just 20% of your total cost for the home construction, that's where we project what these homes, the range these homes will be in. And you have to think about it in the context of, if you as an individual are going to spend $200,000 for a lot, are you going to build a 2,500 square foot home?
I understand, but I want to make clear for those who are listening, and this is part of the education process here, so that everybody understands the process that we go through. We want to make sure for those who are concerned about their property values, that the homes that are being built there will fall within a certain sale price and will not affect property values. So are we saying that we may have some 500,000 homes, $500,000, $600,000? Is that what we're stating?
We don't know, because they're individual homeowners that are going to build these houses, but they will adhere to the same ARB guidelines as all the other homes that are currently being constructed by homeowners. And I would add this. If you take your average sales price in Eagles Landing for the past 12 months, that average sales price is right at $450,000.
Okay, so we're getting close to about $500,000.
So anything over that is going to pull those values up.
Okay.
That's the way the real estate industry works.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
All right. Back to my developer. Thank you all so much.
Hope I
can
can
you
answer
tell me? Well, you're representing him tonight, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So can you tell me how many retention ponds you think you'll have in this development?
We're going to try to look at using the lake if we can, modify the outlet structure a little bit and use that. Most of the property drains to the lake already. We may have to do some type of small water quality ponds or some other type of products to mitigate the water quality, but the property drains to the lake now, so we're going to.
But it will be environmentally friendly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And we will meet all the
That's
county
the goal.
regulations.
And can you tell me a little bit about your green plan for the community and how it will complement the community that's there now?
Yes, ma'am. I think I'd stated earlier that they're proposing like a little small park on the upper end of the dam. Probably a little gazebo or something of that nature to provide some open space for the residents, and I guess it would be for all the residents there of Eagles Landing as well. So that would be right near the lake and would be very nice. So most of the property is taken up by the lots. There's not a ton of actual, open space with this one. Because you have the lake and all of that. So trying to make the larger lot sizes, it takes up the majority of the property.
Does your plan also include a lighting plan, sidewalks, and plan as well for the development?
Yes, ma'am.
Will it complement the community that's there now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And my questioning is in line to make sure that if indeed this development is approved, that it will maintain the values that are there now, so people won't have to be concerned about that. We want to make sure that you've done the work around the dam that's necessary, the studies, that it's going to be safe. There shouldn't be any concern about that. And I think I have addressed the questions of those that are here, and those that have emailed me. Now, there was one other question that came up tonight, and that's sidewalks. But your sidewalks are planned internally for the community, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And for those who are listening, I want to let them know when it comes to Peach Drive and some of the other roads that in the area, especially Camp Creek Extension, those roads are within the Stockbridge area, resides within the city of Stockbridge. The county has done a great investment in the road improvements in those areas without any help from the city, and we're looking to the city to come forward and help with those sidewalks and maybe put forth a plan or proposal of how those sidewalks can be put in place. And I think as far as Commissioner, I have asked the questions that needed to be asked in reference to this community. I have taken the time to go out and spend time to look at this particular area. I have looked at the proposed plats and how the subdivision will be laid out. We have heard that the value of these homes should be $500,000, $600,000. Hopefully, some would be up in the millions based upon being around the lake. It would add value to the Henry County community, that's for sure. And it's something that we want to maintain in the Eagles Landing area, is to complement the area that's there. We make decisions here based upon a process, what's going to be good for the county. How can we bring income and taxes to the county, provide a quality of life for the people that are here, maintain a certain standard that Henry County residents do desire to have because they moved to this particular area. And I say that because I would like for the commissioners of this board to consider all those factors and approve this development for the Eagles Landing area and for Henry County.
Okay, so is that your motion?
My resolution.
Okay, so we have a motion.
I'm sorry.
Okay, okay, and with these conditions, any additional?
Right, yes.
Okay, okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second? Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, there's a second. Any further discussion or comments? All in favor? Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So at this time now, we will move into the next item under financial services, and this will begin the public hearing of our adoption of the proposed 2019-2020 annual budget. And we'll invite up County Manager Sherry Hobson Matthews and Mr. David Smith for the presentation. Okay.
Good evening, Chair and board members, and I'll also have our Deputy County Manager, Mr. Brad Johnson, joining us as well.
If we can ask everyone to please be quiet. We are continuing the session, please. Excuse us, sir. We're trying to conduct business, so thank you. Okay, there is a motion, a note for a brief recess. What's the pleasure of the board? We've got that in public comments. How many do we have for, we've got the public hearing, then we've got the 2019 adoption board, and how many public comments do we have? One public comment. So there's been there was a notion you were okay to press on? Okay. All right, the pleasure of the board. Okay, I guess we'll press on. Okay, now, I'm sorry, thank you for the presentation that you're about to present.
Good evening again, Chair and board members. This evening, myself and the Deputy County Manager would like to present to the board the FY20 budget. As you all are aware, we did have a workshop meeting last week, and as a result of the workshop meeting, there were several questions that were raised that I will allow Mr. Johnson to provide some details on. But the county clerk should be distributing to you all, just for your record, a copy of the budget that is being proposed based on the comments received from the board during our workshop meeting. I did send a copy of this one-page summary to the board on yesterday evening, but wanted to provide you all with another hard copy and then a final copy of the resolution that you all will be considering tonight. I understand the resolution is very lengthy, but we are required by law to include all of the funds, including the special funds, and we have to detail that information. So this is not new information. This is just the very detailed summary of what you all will be considering tonight. Again, the budget does include an increase based on some recommendations and actions taken by the board. If you all will recall, the board did elect to fund 100% of the insurance or absorb 100% of the insurance increase, so that has now been included in the budget. In addition to that, we initially had recommended 10 additional police officers for our police department, but I think there was a consensus amongst the board to add 10 additional officers, and so the budget does reflect adding those 10 additional officers. Additionally, the budget also does now reflect the use of $295,000 of fund balance. If there's any specific questions regarding the budget summary, I'll be more than happy to go through those. But if not, I'll turn it over to Mr. Johnson to provide some details on some questions that were raised.
Thank you, Sherry. Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you again. We're excited to present this budget in a factual way that is detailed on true spending habits rather than projections. At the last meeting, the 5 options were presented, and we think we've came up with the option 4 that included most everything. But Madam Chair, you asked specifically about the public safety and how to get there, how to reduce the overtime, and how to get to where we need to be. One of the things we do a lot of planning, and as Chief Amron mentioned last meeting, that it'll take about 70 more police officers to get it to the optimal level with that. When it comes to the overtime, there are certain things that are included that will never, I say never, we can reduce by staffing. However, for the police department, you always have court, you have special details, you have things like that included in overtime. So it's just generally not the minimal staffing level, which there is a lot of at this time. So for the fire department, you have minimum staffing levels, which require overtime while understaffed. Also, we have the Kelly Day system. For Fair Labor Standards, you can work 212 hours, and on your 3rd cycle of a 28-day cycle, you have a K Day or Kelly Day, which in Henry County back in, about 8 years ago, the board approved doing away with K Days in lieu of the overtime for our staffing levels to increase staffing levels. So that will always be in effect as long as that model is used. However, there's 22 vacancies, including the ones that are in school today. So once the fire department gets their staffing members trained, their overtime for minimal staffing activities will be decreased dramatically. And I'll just show you quickly the chart that's used. Just give you an idea of how the departments use their planning model is take the apparatus. It's hard to see, but you take the apparatus, the number of personnel needed per shift, you allocate annual leaves, holiday leave, sick leave, bereavement leave, military leave, and you factor them numbers into your daily staffing model. And at this point here, it shows, let me get my note sheet here. It shows for optimal staffing, and back in FY17, there was 299 allocated as operational staff. In FY18, 323, and FY19, and this upcoming will be 358 approved positions in the fire service. Again, that's approved positions. That includes the ones in training and the open positions. So when you get the full staffing model presented, as Chief Phillips mentioned at the last workshop meeting, when that's done, our overtime for minimum staffing will be decreased tremendously. I spoke with the sheriff. Sheriff McBrayer, 90% of his overtime is from the jail. He has over 20 plus openings today in the jail. He's working hard with his staff trying to fill in positions. At this time, additional personnel, until he gets to his staffing level up for the 20, will not help. That's what we can add people, but he's having a hard time filling in positions. So we're actually working with the sheriff and his team on how to fill the positions and how to get workers or our workforce interested in being a jailer at that point. So that was one of the concerns that the sheriff had, but he said approximately 90% of his overtime force is in the jail arena. He also has court. He has special details that he will have ongoing overtime expenses with. Henry County 911, they're the same situation. They have 5 vacant openings, and Director Ash is in the process of filling them. We also have additional call takers in this year's budget that will actually be more they'll help facilitate some of the dispatching model, but more importantly, it'll help facilitate a better work environment so the dispatcher, the communications officer is not also answering the phone trying to dispatch a call, worker radio. So definitely one of the dissatisfiers in that position is being understaffed, and we're trying to work on that. So in summary, for our public safety team in overtime, we'll always have some method of overtime, but our goal is to reduce it operationally in our staffing models so that we're optimally staffed and decrease to special events, court, or things that are programmed overtime rather than just a necessity for staffing. I believe our model of increasing gradually is a good one, trying to make sure we don't over budget for positions we cannot fill, and wait till our market budget as our market progresses and fill the positions as we can from that point. So Madam Chair, I hope I answered your question. I hope I detailed that for you.
That answers my question.
And then I did fail to mention on board, additionally, within the budget, the positions that the district attorney asked for have been included in the budget in addition to the position that the solicitor asked for, the video tech. And so the budget that's being recommended to the board is a budget of $163,045,000. And again, that is our projected, based on our projected revenue in the use of $295,000 out of fund balance.
It also includes our class and comp program, the appeal process at 100%. If that appeal process went through, the job descriptions are coming in, that process is ongoing to move forward. But it does include moving the personnel that was capped at 5, moving them up to their recommended box. Our goal is to get everybody in the box where they should be with the longevity.
Okay. Any questions? I've got just a couple of things I just want to get a clarification on. Any questions from the board? You mentioned the 100% insurance. Would you clarify? Because I thought we agreed that it would be definitely 75%, and then I guess you had to budget for 100% in case all employees take advantage.
That is correct.
Of that opportunity. So that's why we see the 100%. Regarding the, I guess you mentioned the DAs, and so you were able to look at those salary because he was more concerned about salary at the market rate. Versus new positions. So
the positions were included. The salaries at the rates, and I've spoken with the DA regarding his request to increase those salaries. And again, our policy would allow him to do that. He has funding that would be available in some other line items that he would be able to shift if there were a desire to bring someone in above the entry salary. And again, that would be consistent with our policy.
Okay, good deal. Okay, and then I think the other thing too, I do note that we just received the job descriptions for the BOC aides. Again, my position is that I think it would be good for the commissioners to have one to definitely help address the constituent concerns that I know our executive assistant is doing. But we need to have more conversation. I would love to hear some thoughts from the board because again, I personally don't think that I need one, but again, just wanted that we didn't have a good discussion because we just got the job descriptions about that. So any thoughts from the board on that?
And Chair, before the board speaks, I also wanted to bring a point of clarification for the BOC aides. And it should have been relayed to the board prior to during our first public hearing. There was a lot of conversation amongst some of the commissioners that would be considered a BOC aide / operational support type funding for the commissioners. And so if a commissioner elected not to have an aide, then this would be additional funding for the commissioner to utilize if there were any specific initiatives that the commissioner wanted to take on. I do want the board to know that one of the things that we've talked about internally is that we would have to develop some type of policy if we're creating not only constituent aides, but any type of operational support, because it would not just be a pot of money that we're handing to the commissioner saying, hey, here's your funding, utilize it as such. But if you all have specific town hall meetings or initiatives that you all want to utilize additional sources with that may not be a part of the budget, then that certainly could be utilized at that line item as well. So I do apologize because that information should have been relayed to the board during the first hearing.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board on that matter? Commissioner Wilson.
I think you sent those job descriptions out for this position, but I didn't receive it.
Okay.
Could you try to resend that for me?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? Commissioner Clemens?
And I think that's a good idea for us to look at Commissioner Woods. If she doesn't need one, we could save about $35,000 to just take that out for the chair.
And I am good with that. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. All right, so at this time, you've heard the presentation on the budget, and again, this is an opportunity. We've had it's now time for the public hearing. So at this time, we'll allow anyone who wishes to speak during this public hearing regarding the budget, they will each have 5 minutes. So if you will come forward to state your name and address, that would be good. At this time, calling for anyone who wishes to speak on the budget.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I'm Elton Alexander with 920 Maple Leaf Drive, McDonough, Georgia. I think you all have put in some extensive work examining the budget, which I'm very familiar with, being with the city of Stockbridge. I just want to come before you as an advocate again for the Arabia Mountain Heritage Area and the Panola Mountain Trails, and to consider all aspects of sidewalk and multi-use paths in the community. Just understanding that as we talked about tonight with the development that we voted on, we have good zoning, planning and zoning and standards because of Mr. Gibbs, his outstanding plan, which was the highway corridor plan, which we adopted as the city. That's a great standard. That standard requires developers to pay for the sidewalks under new development, just like in Bethpage. I think we need to work together as the county and the city, as the Commissioner Thomas has suggested, that we fund sidewalks for the safety of the community. We've heard a lot of talk tonight about traffic and safety and understanding. We know the burden that you're up under because there's only so many dollars that you have allocated toward yourself, and understand this board is not responsible for or how we got here. Your job is to make sure that we move forward proactively. I think you all are doing that. I think the zoning and the planning department is doing an outstanding job with economic development in the county. So I want to applaud you all for the work that you've done in moving us forward. And I think we have to draw a distinction between the previous board and this board. In the past, in the last 20 years, some of these decisions, these hard decisions, should have been made 20 or 30 years ago. But it's laid right here in your lap. A lot of those decisions are being laid right in my lap in the city of Stockbridge. And these decisions are very tough. But I think that you all have done a lot of due diligence in moving the process forward. And again, but as an advocate, every single penny or dime that we can spend on improving pedestrian safety, I'm all for doing that. And I think that we have those standards in place to do that. And I challenge all the commissioners again, go back and look at your SPLOST list. If you don't have a dedicated category for sidewalks and trails, you need to look at your SPLOST area again. Because what generally happens, and I'm advocating the same right here in Stockbridge, if it's put under roads, bridges, and sidewalks, the roads and the bridges always come and the sidewalks never seem to come, or the paths never seem to come. There need to be a separate line item in every single SPLOST and every single district dedicated specifically for sidewalk. So at a later date, someone can't go back and say, okay, well, it's in that broad category, we'll spend it on something. You gotta spend it on the sidewalks and the multi-use paths if it's in a separate category and the voters approve that. I'm gonna be advocating for that in the city of Stockbridge as well. And I want to, again, I stood before this podium in 2014 asking for support for our men and women in blue who risk their safety for us every single day. At that time, there was equipment needs in the department. You all have come such a long way forward in moving the county forward, equipping our men and women with the equipment that they need as we grow along. So you all should take a bow in that you've done an outstanding job in protecting our community. Continue to move that forward and give them what they need in order to protect this community at every turn, because they do what they can to keep us safe. And I listened to the numbers that were available to us about the shortages in the departments, and I think you all are working on the salary scales in order to approve that. We as a city undertook a budget study in the city of Stockbridge, and what we did was we wanted to make sure that we put our people on par to compete with top talent here in Metro Atlanta. We have endeavored to do so, and we will continue to do so. And that is what we want as a community. As a citizen here, I want to make sure that we have the very best people in the community running our city. I know that the county manager is very responsive to emails that I send. I send emails as a citizen. I am a citizen of this community more also than I am a city council person, and I understand what you do every day. And I thank you for what you do, and continue the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak during this public hearing on the budget? Again, anyone else wishing to speak on the budget? Okay, well, that concludes the public hearing. So at this time, we'll invite the county manager back up and the deputy county manager, and Mr. Smith, if there's any other questions or comments from the board. Okay. Hearing none, the floor is now open for a motion.
Move to approve the budget as presented with the change of taking out an aide for the chair.
Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any further discussion or comments? All in favor? Okay, the budget is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Okay. So now at this time, we will move to the public comment section, and this is the time that we allow 5 minutes for individuals to speak, and they are requested to sign up with the county clerk prior to the meeting to complete a comment form, and I understand that we have one public comment this evening.
Mr. Bill Tony.
Okay, so at this time, thank you.
Bill Tony, McDonough, Georgia. If I'm not mistaken, didn't Miss Thomas say she lived in Eagles Landing? You live in Eagles Landing?
If you'll make your comment, sir, thank you.
No, I'm asking a question because I'm going to make a comment on what the proper thing to do if it's a vote, just like with people out here. If it's a vote going up for zoning, you recluse yourself because you're their neighbor. Just thought I'd kind of tell you about that, both of y'all, if you lived in Eagles Landing. But anyway, I just sit here, can't believe, all the zoning and everything. I don't know what y'all gonna do stacking these people up. I really don't know. You have people come up here. I appreciate you vetting the builders and everything like you did with Eagles Landing. Now, see, you're kind of looking out for these people, and I could tell that. My commissioner sits over there and does that. I don't get that. We're getting more houses, more trucks, more cars. I met with one of the guys that's building warehouses, and he said as long as they keep approving land, I'm going to be buying land and I'm going to be building buildings. And, if you know me, you know that's the truth. He said he will build every square foot in this county that he can. This is a hotbed for trucking, and that's what they're going to do. Now, I don't know if y'all are working for the people or working for the builders. You're approving everything that comes up here. I don't care what it is. It's apartments, if it's whatever. And Ms. Clemens has really done some work over there in Hampton. So it took me, from my brother's house over there to my house, took me over an hour. I mean, it's crazy. The traffic's crazy, and y'all just keep on approving this stuff. You got to get your infrastructure together. You can't keep going this way. You know, these warehouses, they're going to start filling up. These trucks are coming through downtown. They're coming up 155. They're going down 42. You got every exit that's going to be blocked out here. And you already see it in McDonough. You need to take a look at this stuff. You're throwing the county over the cliff, you know. And I know you probably don't care, but I mean, but it's still, I'm a citizen here. I own properties here. It concerns me. I don't come up here just for the heck of it. You know, I'm concerned about it. I ran, you know, like I said, 3 of y'all are going to be running again. This right here is going to come back to bite you next year. I'm going to make sure it comes back to bite you next year. It's crazy what y'all are doing. You're destroying the county. Little by little, you're destroying it. And I'm totally ashamed of every one of you. I mean, that's from my heart. I've tried my best to make everything work out better. It's not. I've got behind some of you as far as running for office, and all you do is let people down. You know, it's a shame. It's a shame because you can't undo what y'all are doing today. It just can't happen. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that was, or, oh, okay. Well, thank you. Okay, so at this time now, we'll move to the commissioner's comments. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioner? Commissioner Thomas?
I do want to make a couple of comments, and these comments are really to our finance department and our county manager and deputy manager. They're probably saying, I can't believe she's saying that. But I know that I asked them 100 questions plus, sent emails 1 o'clock in the morning in reference to this budget and in reference to trying to make sure we supported departments that needed support. And I want to just thank you for your time publicly. Thank you for your temperance with me. And thank you for making sure we found those dollars for public safety, for the solicitor, for the DA, and other departments that really didn't need it. And I do realize that sometimes it was not as easy to make it happen with us. But just want to let you know that we see the work, and thank you for that. And for the gentleman and the other ones that are out there, you're wrong. We do care about this county. And there are a lot of times when you talk about infrastructure, what have you, you have entities that are city roads, county roads, state roads, and some of them we're not allowed to touch and do anything with. We're just not allowed to do it. So think about the fact that we live here, and we live here on purpose. We want to, and we are working to make this county better. We really are, and I am proud to sit with this board. I really am. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Clemens.
I just want to make sure that we send our condolences to our DOT representative, Dana Lemons, who lost her brother. I know that she's her family's been part of this community for a very long time, so I just want to send out my condolences, and so if anyone knows the family, to make sure you send out a message to them.
Thank you. Any other commissioner? Commissioner Barnes?
Yes, I want to congratulate the Yola High School baseball team for making the state playoffs in the baseball. They came up a little short, but didn't win it. But they finished second, and that's a big accomplishment. And just want to mention that. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? I've got a comment. I too stand in agreement to pay respects to the Lemon family as well. On a matter that was stated this evening regarding a zoning matter that I disclosed that I lived in that community, I'm going to ask the county attorney to educate our public about what was and was not appropriate, especially regarding my vote in that matter. So,
sure, I'll do my best. So, Georgia law and our county code both address the issue of conflicts of interest in rezoning decisions. Georgia law, there's a statute specifically that requires a government official to recuse him or herself under limited circumstances, and those are when the official has a property interest in the property subject to the rezoning. So if you own a portion of the property subject to rezoning, then you're required to recuse yourself. If you have a financial interest in the property or the business entity that owns the property, then you are required to recuse yourself. And those are both very specific instances. It's basically if you are going to directly profit from the rezoning, you are required to disclose and recuse. That also applies if a member of your immediate family has either of those interests. And that's a very narrow requirement under state law. The county has two ordinances that arguably apply as well, and those require that in any decision the board makes, that if a commissioner has a substantial interest in the matter, then you're required to, again, disclose and recuse yourself. And we define a substantial interest as being a direct or indirect financial or material benefit held by or accruing to you. And we go on to define what that means in the county code by saying that you have a substantial interest when someone in either you or someone in your immediate family will receive a direct benefit not commonly shared by others who are similarly situated. It goes on to be more detailed about having contracts and things like that, but that's the section that I think is the one we would be looking at here. Now, if you live in that neighborhood, if you live in a community where there's a rezoning taking place, next door, down the street, or anything else, arguably you have an interest in the outcome. But that interest is the same interest commonly shared by everyone else affected by the community. So the way this code section, and this is Article Section 3-2-4 of the county code, because you have the same potential benefit or harm as everybody else in the community, you're not required to recuse yourself. The second section that arguably would apply is Section 3-2-21.17, which is the section that deals with abstentions. And that section says, basically, if you just don't think you can make a fair decision, you should recuse yourself. And I can tell you in the years that I've worked with the Board of Commissioners, I think many commissioners have struggled with that decision. And that's one that only you can make that decision. And it sounded to me like both of you went through some, significant efforts to make the determination about voting in the way that you felt was right, and didn't let whatever personal interest you might have interfere with it. There's also the notion that once you're elected commissioner, you shouldn't treat your neighbors differently than you treat anyone else that you represent. You shouldn't, the amount that you watch out for the citizenry shouldn't be dependent on how close they live to you. And from that standpoint, I think it would be improper to simply recuse yourself just because you live nearby. I think there should be more than that before you recuse yourself. So I don't think the law required any of you to recuse yourself. I don't think the law expects commissioners to be that distant from these decisions. You're all elected from your communities. We are a large enough community that there's a fair chance that a lot of the votes you make, you don't even know where the property is until you go out and find it. This just happened to be one that was a little closer to each of you, and I don't think the law required either of you to recuse yourselves.
All right, well, thank you. The only final thing I'd like to say is I definitely want to commend the county management team, the staff, and David Smith, the department heads, and all of the others who spent some countless hours preparing this budget. And more importantly, responding to a lot of the questions that have come from our board. I would also say in that process, it was good to just still see us continue to look for opportunities to minimize any excess costs. I mean, for you to go back and say we're going to look at actual trends and not necessarily just budget the way that we've done, that was new. Definitely heard that we're continuing to think forward, on making sure that we're heading in the right direction operationally. It was great, again, to hear the grand comments about what's happening in our public safety department, especially from decisions that were made last year about equipment and salaries, and to hear, that we're, don't have that many vacancies in many of our departments, and that you're trying to manage overtime appropriately was good. The other thing is, I do want to say that it is good to see that we've got a transportation planner that is included in this budget, so that, again, we've got a comprehensive transportation improvement plan. That thing needs to move forward. And I, again, commend, Commissioner Holmes for the fixed route. It was mostly in District 5, but we need something countywide, and we heard that through the CBDG. We've got to, again, begin thinking futuristically about every aspect of our transportation needs to help us, again, not only catch up, but to begin thinking futuristically as we continue to address these transportation issues that are here. So I just wanted to commend the staff, but I also want to commend this board. I will tell everyone that this is a very inquisitive board. I mean, you may see us here, but there's lots of questions. We don't agree to things, but we definitely do our homework, and we're making decisions as we think are best as individuals. And so I, again, want to commend the board for helping us to think not only of where we are, but we're moving forward. We're pressing each other's buttons, and that's okay. That's what we're here for. So again, I just want to, just commend everyone. I want to thank the citizens who've been coming out to participate in these public hearings and these public comments. Again, I still say let's continue to look for ways to be efficient, and as we get better, every year it seems like the budget review process and presentation is getting better. And again, there's a couple of things we got to meet with the Board of Education to kind of talk about some things. So how do we do that before we get to the budget and a couple of other things that I'll have a note to share with the county management team. But again, I just wanted to say I appreciate this, and again, those are my comments for this evening. So is there anything else from the Board of Commissioners at this time? Okay, so now we'll turn it over to the county manager for any comments, and we appreciate you as well.
Thank you very much, Chair, and to the entire board, on behalf of the county management team and all of our department heads, we want to thank you all for asking those questions as it pertains to the budget. Myself, Brad, and David certainly can't take all the credit. It took all of our department heads making some tough decisions and really trusting the process. And so tonight I want to not only thank the board, but also thank our entire leadership team for a job well done in making sure that we have a budget that we feel comfortable with, and a budget that we can continue to provide the high level of service that we are providing as a county government. So again, thank you, and thank you to the department heads that stuck around tonight as support to the management team and to the Board of Commissioners to show their commitment. So again, thank you all, and I hope everyone has a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Okay, so at this time, regarding our upcoming meetings and events, we have a June 4th Board of Commissioners meeting scheduled at 9:00 a.m. And then on June 18th, we have a regular scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting at 6:30 p.m. So are there anything else for the good of the group? And if not, we'll open the floor for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion?
Second.
And a second. All right, all in favor? Stand.